September 6, 2009, VGN Radio presents Midwest Wasteland with your hosts, Kevin Baird,
Brian Baird,
Don Cease,
and Larry Mack.
Tonight's topic, school. So Don Anderson isn't with us at the moment, but he will be joining us a little bit later. As soon as he shows up, he's got to put the kids to bed, and we know how that goes. So,
No!
get there!
I think the kids just get tired. Like, because, it's not...
Eventually.
Well, I mean, it's not like
school tomorrow.
Anderson's not really doing anything. Like, he's incapable. He just sits there and he's like, just watches them, and eventually they just fall over on the ground.
You guys should have gone to bed by now. Okay, fine.
Yeah. They're like, let's play. And Don's just like, all right, fine. Playtime. I got a radio show to do. No!
I don't see that at all. I see Anderson just looking at him like, going, no, you're going to bed now. Okay. I'm sure the fucking attention span threshold is fucking immediately comes crumbling down.
No, dude, I bet he gets confused because the kid's gone, no, I'm not. And they get up and he's like, wait, what?
They just make him question himself like they're Jedi powers and shit.
No, this is how it works.
But wait, what? No, you can't.
Mommy said I didn't have to.
It's time for bed. Where are you going? That probably goes on for like an hour and a half. So, yeah, and then eventually the kids are just like laying on the carpet and stuff, and he's like, okay, if I go really quiet into the computer room, they won't hear. That's why.
You're gonna step right on that board.
Playtime.
I'll be back. Click.
Yeah, but he'll think they're asleep, because they'll fool him, and he'll go do the show, and in the other room, first you hear nothing but hee, and then like they know he's not going to be able to get off the computer because he's talking to us, and like 30 minutes later, you're just hearing like So Anderson, what's your life like in the background? You're hearing playing drums and shit. Hello.
They're going to get a little bit older, and then they're going to be like, completely. He's going to completely not have any control over them. So,
right.
Get out of my stash.
I mean, Belle must be getting she's getting kind of old. I don't know. She's gotten, she's not a teenager or nothing, but she's certainly capable of holding a conversation and everything.
Talking like they're inhuman.
Well, kids, you can't have a conversation with them until they get to a certain age. Otherwise, they're just talking.
Kevin would know.
Yeah, I've been around enough kids, Brian. It's not like
you walk around.
They fall over dead or something when they get near me. Like they have the plague.
As soon as you fucking have any child near you, like, gotta go.
Because they babble.
Like, start fucking sniffing, and you have eyes go watery, like you're allergic. You're I gotta go.
They have the most sensitive. They go, you know what? My daddy has a car, and it goes around the block, and he took my friend.
They don't talk to you, man, because you come in, you're like 8 feet fucking tall.
They do talk to me, because your crazy father's running around with like a foam helmet on his head and shit, and they're like, well, Dad's crazy, so.
It's a crash helmet, dude. It's because they like to throw shit. And it sounds funny until you get like at the ass end of it. It's like, bam! Like, oh my god.
All right. So, do any of you guys remember? Well, I'll go around.
Okay.
Brian,
you're gonna start with kindergarten, dude. I'm just gonna fall asleep now.
I'm just gonna ask you: do you remember your preschool or kindergarten at all?
I remember preschool.
I remember one thing. Okay, preschool. I only remember for this particular reason. All right. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't remember it at all. When Mom took us to go to like preschool, all right, because she was on a bowling league, and the bowling alley had a
German woman bowling. It's awesome.
A daycare / preschool. Don't ask me how in the fuck that worked. All right, preschool basically back then was just put the kids in a
bowling
room,
pins,
and lock them in there for a few hours, and then release them. So but what happened is like there was like this I don't know what it was. It was like some sort of like a little block thing you could climb inside, and like kids were climbing all over. And I was like taking stuff and like big Legos, and I was like walling myself in. And but there was no way to do it because like they had like holes on like not just like on all the sides but above you too. And one of the women, I don't even think she spoke English. She was like just supposed to watch the kids like reach through the top and grab me by the hair and pulled me really hard, like out and like shrieking at me and stuff. And then went and I crying out in the bowling alley. I got away from them and I cried in the bowling alley. I found Mom. I'm like, and
that was preschool.
Dude, that was preschool. Mom fucking was just like, what? So she goes in there and finds out what's happening. And she's like, you're not going back to that ever again. I asked Mom about it later. She's like, she said she was really pissed off about that.
Anybody gonna pull a hat? It is me.
And then kindergarten, I just remember being fucking, it was like, coloring the balls. And then, like, there was nap time, and then there was the big. I had two things which required my supervisors in the school, the teachers and principals, or whatever, to become concerned and contact my parents.
Oh, God, what did you do now?
One of them was I used to get up in the middle of class and walk over towards the windows. When the teacher asked me what the hell I was doing, I was like, I'm not supposed to be here. She's always like, Mom was like, yeah. She goes, they just said you were just out looking, staring out the window going, I'm not supposed to be here. And I'm like, of course not. I got robbed. It wasn't supposed to be my life. I was supposed to be a king. Instead, I'm fucking in Clawson, Michigan. What the hell? And then, of course, I wouldn't drink my milk. They give you milk like right before nap time, which I'm sure they drugged. It was like, your son's not drinking milk. And it was like a big, because they give you the milk. By the time they give it to you, it's like half warm, so it just tasted gross. I'm like, I want to drink the milk.
Brian was never fond of milk.
Is there crushing pills in it?
Or eggs.
Dude, it'd be like half NyQuil.
Or chicken. Okay.
That's what I remember.
And kindergarten? Yeah, was it? Same thing? That was kindergarten, right? That was it? Okay.
Yeah.
So, Larry.
Yes. I remember very little of my kindergarten years.
You were disassembled then.
Yeah. I remember the school I went to, and I remember that for our many listeners out there who aren't in Cleveland, the year after I finished, while I was in kindergarten is when they first started implementing busing here in the Cleveland city schools, because our schools weren't integrated enough. Because if you ever come to Cleveland, especially in like the 70s, basically the east side is where all the black people lived, and the west side is where all the white people lived.
So if you come to Cleveland in the 70s, there's a problem. Okay.
Yeah.
Segregated.
Your time travels, you may want to look at that.
Apartheid. Sorry.
As a result, all the schools on the west side had no black students, and there were giant lawsuits all over the place, and so Cleveland started busing, and
intelligent.
Yeah, basically they would take all the white kids from the west side schools and bus them over to the east side schools, and bring all the black kids from the east side schools and bring them over to the west side.
Literally, dude, it was like sending white kids off to death camps, And then having also like the bus doors would just open and all you're like, to release the fucking invading hordes.
Well, more importantly,
that's what I heard it was like.
You have your
stick and drag you out.
You have your first grade daughter, who's 5 years old and is going to school, 50 miles away from the house because she's over on the other end of Cleveland, out towards like East Lake. So everybody hated it, and my kindergarten was my last year in the Cleveland public schools, and I only mention that because it's the only thing close to a kindergarten story I have. Although to compare me and Brian, I do have one story that my parents have told me about after the fact, because I don't remember this. Brian is the cool, kind of out there guy who, when he was in kindergarten, his parents got called because he would look longingly out the windows trying to recall his previous lives.
Yeah. I knew it had to be better. If I got blown up in the battlefield, I'm like, get me out of here.
When I was in kindergarten...
I can see how I was going to go already.
When I was in kindergarten, my mom got pulled aside for the talk because whenever we would have little, class projects due, not homework, whatever the hell you do with kindergarten in class, because Lord knows it's not a test, I would do mine really quickly, and then I would get up and walk around and help other people with theirs, because Mommy and Daddy always taught me to help other people. So that's the sort of kid I was, back before I got all corrupted.
That's a touching story. Man.
It is. See what a swell guy I am? Everyone gives me shit.
What the fuck happened to you?
I'm a kind-hearted, soft, introspective soul.
Soft, know that, but...
So
we'll get into another show. What the hell changed Larry? No.
Yeah.
You need to say plush, not soft.
Kind of doughy.
If you get the Larry Mack sandwich game, it comes with a little figure. Besides how they made
Pillsbury Doughboy with my face.
Yeah.
It's actually just some Pillsbury dough.
It's a squeak toy.
It's just the form of a human being. Just squeeze it, just like squish it.
Comes with a can of it that you can eat. Just to eat a can of Pillsbury dough so you can be more like Larry Mack.
It doesn't even form back into its original shape.
Yeah. It's all smush.
It's like, you don't try to flick it off your hand. And like pieces of it are flying through the fucking house. And your wife's like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
The dough
It's
just
Larry McDowell. Get it out of here, it stinks.
the dough doesn't move, but it just gets bigger.
It just spreads until it takes over your house.
Things are missing from the
What's
fridge.
in the fridge?
Yeah.
All right, so Cease.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you put it in the oven.
Preschool. I went there, a little place. I probably shouldn't say the name of it, but it's in North Homestead, all the way on the other side, the west
Cares,
side.
dude. Say what?
It's
And,
a true story. No one cares.
And when I went there, I remember the basics. I remember that place. We had some cool teachers and stuff, but the kids were absolute ass. I mean, you go outside and they had this one shed out in the back, and everything, all the toys for the outside were like broken except for like one big wheel. And everybody fought over this stupid big wheel. There's like a big, like a black top circle in the back, and everybody fought over this big wheel. And every time I'd get it, I was out there the first time, some kid would come up to me and go, "Hey, you took it away from me," like blame all the teachers, and they'd kick me off of this damn thing and let the kid have it. So about a week of this shit happened.
We can
And
see how
finally-
Cease got jaded early.
yeah. And finally, I got sick of it. Eventually, I'm like, "Look, kid, you're not getting it today." He's like, "Yeah." So I like rammed it into his knees. So they put me on the inside for like a week after that, and then I came out and I saw him on it and I pushed him off it. Sent in for another week,
You were like 3
and my
feet.
mom's like, "This ain't gonna work if you didn't." She started working at that time. She's like, "I gotta work. I can't have you doing all this stuff." So finally, I just stopped playing the stupid big wheel. And then
Bastards.
I got another friend there. He was kind of strange. They always had these clothes in the back, and it's like kids would play dress up and stuff. And he'd always come up to me with this baby carriage thing, and he's like, "Look, I'll play the mother as long as you play the father." No one wants to play with me. I'm like, "I can see why, kid." I'm like,
No, you won't play the mother while I'm the father. Go away.
I don't know whatever happened to that guy, but I pretty much assumed he doesn't have a family. So that was just
I'm going
quite
to be
weird.
the husband, little boy.
Maybe he does, like in New Hampshire or something.
Oh.
And you're going to be the wife. Pull down your pants.
Yeah, it was very creepy. I mean, even at that age, I'm like, "What, dude? You don't wear really?" He's like coming up to me with a grandma hat on. I'm like, "Dude, get away! Get away!"
See, now, had you been in the Cleveland public schools, you would have shown up for class, and guy would have walked over to you. Yous wants to be the husband, or yous wants to be the wife.
You's gonna be the bitch. But no, it was some crazy shit, some crazy kids over there. And you always got the puke stories, and I just remember the one friend of mine. He just got there the first day. The kid just hurled all over the place. I was like, everybody felt bad for him. He was all embarrassed. He went home like a half an hour later. "Hey, this is Derek." Oh, he's a little sick today. He just left. And then kindergarten.
I feel good, Mom.
Kindergarten, I don't remember too much of. And it just where the hell did I go in kindergarten? I think that was Spruce School. Yeah, I was in Spruce.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of that because there's a lot of outdoor crap. But other than that, I don't remember kindergarten, so I'll have to pass it up.
All right. So preschool. Now let me tell you something. This is what I remember about preschool. Brian and I had a
yelling,
we had a. I'm not. Is my microphone loud? I'm sorry.
Just like, Ryan and I.
Maybe I'm trying to drown out your typing because I can hear your typing because it's really loud.
Not typing at all.
That was me.
Yeah, Larry. Well, that's because Larry's got the God mic. Brian and I had a German mother, and still do. And
We used to have a German mother, but
we grew up in a
Now she turned Swede.
basically it was like an Irish neighborhood or a Scottish neighborhood or something. And so
talk about school, man. We don't got to
listen, this is important. Shut up. I was quiet during your fucking little thing. Shut it the fuck up.
Paying attention, like reading something.
And she used to spank us all the time, and she spanked us with a wooden spoon. Okay, and it fucking hurt.
Is that why she became a cook?
and it hurt and it stung. And our dad would spank us sometimes.
Proper when you get a spanking.
And my point is that, you know, after a while, after a few years of this, you know, you get kind of psychologically used to it in a sense. You don't want to get spanked, so when you're going for the spanking, you're kind of crying. You're like, you know, and then you get spanked, and you're like, ah! You're getting. Hold on, just let me tell my story.
Jesus.
And then you go up to your room, and you're like, all right, and then you start playing with toys again and shit, and you're like, whatever, you know, that shit's over. And it's kind of a little tender, but whatever, you don't care. That shit's done, and you're gonna go outside soon. So when I get to preschool, okay, back in those days, they used to spank the kids. And what they used to do is they used to take the kid.
Anytime, any place they wanted.
They would take the kid and they would take him into this room, which we as kids would call the spanking room. Okay,
that's forgotten.
And as I had already gone through like a pretty normal upbringing of a spanking, you know, that I would have just been like I was expecting people to cry like my brother and I would. We would go off in the room. But these kids, I didn't know this at the time, but those kids would be losing their mind. They'd be like, you know, like they're taking them to like get fucking the rack or something, you know, like, and shit. So in my mind, I'm thinking,
what do they do to him?
Yeah, I'm thinking there's a machine.
Even more horrifying because you hear it.
Right, I'm thinking there's a machine in there just tearing their flesh off and shit. And I'm like, oh my god, I better not fuck up in this place, man. This is serious.
I wanted to know what the hell they were giving them over to, like the devil's in that.
Right,
it's just the kids just peeling up chunks of the floor with their fingernails as the teacher drags them back there.
And
I saw a kid one time puke because he was so fucking afraid.
And the kids that are around you are no help. They just tell you lies. They're just like,
it makes it worse.
She's got a paddle with nails on it. Yeah. She's got
Billy, who used to sit in that desk before you came here, never came back.
She killed a kid, you know, and you're just like, what?
We found him in a dumpster.
For taking that block? Oh, you know, like, oh yeah, don't touch those blocks, you know. So you're just like, you're there, you're just making sure you do everything right, you know. You can't even believe it. Yeah, so that's my only real memory of preschool is being completely horrified. I was never spanked because I was probably a model child at that point because I was afraid to death.
That shit, yeah.
Kindergarten.
I remember that shit.
Okay, so kindergarten was weird. We went to a school that was like 2 streets over called Baker. I think we talked about this before. And Brian went to Baker for a few grades, but I only went to Baker for kindergarten. And then they closed it, and then we had to go down like about a half mile more to a larger elementary school. Well, anyway, the only thing I remember about kindergarten was the first day my mom walked me to the kindergarten, and there were all these kids in the room, and there was a bunch of parents standing in the back, and there was a lot of kids like losing their mind, crying. And because the moms are like going, okay, I'm going to go home and I'll see you when you... And the kids are like, nah! You know, and they start freaking out because their parents are leaving. And I'm just like, wow, these kids are fucked up. Well, my mom's here, you know, I'm good, you know. So I'm just like doing my thing. And my mom's like, okay, I'm going to go home. Same thing. All of a sudden, you're just like, no! And I just like lost my cookies, like just start crying and shit. But whatever. That's the only thing I remember about fucking...
And instead of Montgomery going, now, honey, it'll be okay. She's like...
Yeah.
Shut the
Let go of my leg!
I'm going, and too bad for you. So, supposedly she, like, snuck up and quietly, like, followed me home the first day to make sure I came home okay. That's the story she tells. I don't know if it's true.
And oddly, she was in the kitchen smoking something like that.
The only
somehow she managed to get home ahead of me.
Right. The only vague
shortcut.
The only vague thing I remember as well is that we had a mock election because they were voting for the president, and it was a choice between what was it, Carter?
Probably Reagan.
No, it was before that. It was Carter,
Johnson.
Johnson.
Yeah.
No, man.
No,
Ford.
Ford.
It was
yeah.
it was Ford, Carter, and then there was another guy. There was a third actually. It was one of those rare ones where there was a third.
That shit.
Anyway, so as a kindergarten,
Goldwater.
some shit like that. And so like as a kid, I was like I didn't know who any of these people were, and then I noticed that one of the ballots somebody had written Snoopy on it, and I was like, oh, we can do that. So I wrote down because back then Snoopy was cool. I don't know. So I wrote down Snoopy. And then they read off the election
Snoopy
votes, and
is still cool.
Snoopy got like a significant portion of the vote thanks to the kindergarten class. So I know that's dumb, but I had to bring that up. Okay, so elementary school, Brian Baker.
Yep.
How long were you in there?
4 years.
Do you remember anything about it?
I remember a lot. Except second grade I don't remember second grade at all. I don't know why.
I was drunk.
It was really, third grade, I had my first teacher that I hated her guts. And it was to the point where like it was a constant battle going on. Like at one point, like we had bathrooms, okay, that were right in, like you could go from the classroom and like you would have to go down a hall or nothing. It's probably to keep the sixth graders from raping you, in your third grade. So you would have like a connecting class, and the classrooms were connected by bathrooms. So because there was like a door on either side, so when you went to take a piss, you had to make sure that both doors are locked. So or it was really embarrassing because you get some stupid kid, you go in there and you open the boys' door to some fat kid with his pants are like, "Ugh," and he closes them. You're like, God damn it, fucking. But it was like one time I actually went in and locked the doors. I was crying because my teacher was fucking with me again, and I'm like yelling at her and stuff, and she's just like, "Why are you doing this?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'm a mean teacher." And both classrooms like, ah, third grade laughter, ah, it's all fucking shitty.
Smart ass.
And one time, and then it was the one time where like I didn't get to go to the spanking room. I was going to see the principal, which was like Darth Vader. She's dragging me down. She had to literally drag me down to see the principal. I don't know what I did.
Did you get spanked in elementary school?
Oh God, yeah.
Oh, you did? Oh, all right.
Yes. Regularly to help. After a while, I got confused as to half the reasons why I was being beaten. But but that was like a cool school too, because like every winter, like they had like every summer they had like this crazy thing where the principal set up like stuff where you could go to like this event they had in the gymnasium, and like you could break plates. Like they just had like a place where like you took these cheap shitty plates and you could just break them.
This is why they closed Baker.
Yeah, that's good.
They had a thing where like you bought tickets, and if you gave like this guy who was just like a cop a ticket, he would like whoever it was, he would just grab him and then put him in like a fake jail, and they had to be in the fake jail for like 20 minutes or something like that. So you were like having fun, or you'd be like winning some game
with a hose.
Yeah, you'd be like winning some game, and also like this big giant hands would come clamp down. You're like, all right, you're off to the clink. You're like, what?
You get to take Johnny's pants down. No,
it was like right there, like everybody could look at you. You could like throw pies at everybody. Yeah, I mean, it was like a way that the principal's idea. Well, the thing was, the principal's idea, I found out a couple of years later, was that he was trying to keep kids from like vandalizing stuff. Because it was like you didn't want like Devil's Night to go on where like people just like burn down fucking Detroit or whatever. They didn't want that to spread to Clawson, so they were like, well, we're just gonna do this, and that way kids get their anger out of their system. And I'm like,
it makes them want to do it more.
I was like going, what the fuck? Did you see that Matt Dillon movie when he was like his first movie? He was a kid and shit, and they're like burning down the town. All the kids took over. It was fucking. Didn't know what the hell was going on with that. But yeah, third grade was like memorable because I hated my teacher. But my fourth grade teacher was really, really cool. You learn. I learned a lot. We actually sat down, wanted to learn. She was cool. She taught everybody, and then she got pregnant. And then like right near the end of the school year, like she was out, and we had like a succession of extremely old. Like what do they call those teachers that just stand in?
Substitute.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the name. Substitute teachers that would just come in. They could not control the classroom at all. Like we were like playing like hide and seek in the hallways, and she's like, "You guys get back in here." We're like, "Fuck you, old lady," taking off, running around, and shit. Unless the principal caught you, then he'd kill you.
Yeah, I mean the thing that people got to understand, what Brian and I
and that was a safety as well
had to deal with, is that this was Detroit suburb, and it was mostly Irish Scottish. Yeah, it was just a little bit. Well, I don't want to say tougher, but it was tougher than it is here. It was weird.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was weird.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so then you went to Shalom, right? And how long were you in Shalom? What grades? Do you remember?
5th to 6th grade.
Okay. Didn't they have 7th there?
No.
Oh, all right. Go ahead.
That was junior high.
What do you remember about that place?
The only thing I remember at that time was 5th grade. The Oakland County kidnapper was going around, and he actually grabbed a kid out of my class, and they found him dead.
Wow.
So that was like a big goddamn deal, dude.
I never heard about that. Really?
Yeah, you can look it up. It's still there.
Did they grab you and then put you back?
Fuck it, this kid's too much trouble.
Starts sniffing me like, threw me back. Like, this guy, this one he smells sweet. But that was a big goddamn deal. Dude.
This is great. I've never been on a side of school day. Hey, this is awesome. Let's go for a ride. Woo! Take off your pants. All right. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Sorry.
It would have been funny until he pulled a knee like, I'm going to give you a shot. Then he would have fucking had a fight like he's never had in his life.
I got a knife too. Yeah, I'm into Cub Scouts. My name's Brian. All right, so okay. Larry, elementary school.
So elementary school was my introduction into the Catholic schools, and while Kevin couched his statements about back when they used to beat kids with, back then. As far as I know, in Catholic school, they can still beat the hell out of you all they want, because they did when I was there.
Did you get beat?
Yes, quite a lot. Even up through high school, I was getting hit with things.
The tenderized meat you have now.
Yeah, that's what it is. It was all muscle, but first grade, I had a nun, Sister Mary Justina, who we had this assignment. I remember this one vividly. It was one of those dumb first grade things where it's like, there's all the words in the boxes and you have to color it in if it's like a noun or something crazy like that or whatever it was. We had to color something. And she decided one of the things that I colored, keep in mind I'm like 6. She decides the one that I colored looked too much like a swastika. So she then went on to yell at me and tell me that, that's not funny. That was the Nazi war symbol. And if you want to have a war, we'll have a war. And I'll win. And she's waving the big giant yardstick in my face, threatening to go to war with me. I remember that one vividly. That was first grade. That was the highlight of my first grade.
Yeah,
about a swastika.
Yeah. Second grade, I had a crush on my second grade teacher.
Here it begins.
Yeah.
Yeah. There it is.
Yeah.
Now we get it.
And to continue the trend of there it begins. One day she caught me eating candy in class, and you weren't allowed to eat in class. So she didn't
eat my pussy now.
I wish. She was hot. But so she took me out in the hall,
like a Wookiee coming out.
Because we didn't have a spanking room, so she took me out in the hall, and she didn't use the yardstick or anything. She had like a racquetball racket, which doesn't sound bad until you realize there's a lot of give in that racket. So that just makes it sting worse when you get smacked with it a few times. So
dude, that's some M shit, dude.
Yeah. I went from nun calling me a Nazi, waving a yardstick in my face, to teacher swatting me with a racquetball racket. Then I just have some vague, shadowy memories. Nothing stands out until we get to 1984, when the Olympics were in Los Angeles. So the Olympics were the big story back then. And my 6th grade teacher said on more than one occasion that I should be in the Olympics. She was personally going to get you there. Basically, as a member of the U.S. javelin catching team.
Really?
So I was going to be a javelin catcher in 6th grade.
You really impressed your teacher.
Really?
I did. Our one other teacher, I remember, it was like her first or second year teaching, and it was also her last year teaching, because after our class, she had a nervous breakdown and went and became a nurse or something like that. So that was cool. And yeah, so that was my grade school.
Anderson's with us now, so we'll catch you up. Do you have any recollection of preschool or kindergarten?
Yep.
Well, tell us about it.
For some odd reason, I do. I don't know why. Probably because that was actually the good years until like first grade when I started getting beat up. But no, preschool. I went to a couple different like preschool places because both my parents worked, so I wasn't sure if it was daycare or preschool.
Basically the same thing.
Basically, I went to I guess it's a daycare because it was in the bowling alley at North Olmsted, so I'm going to assume that's a daycare.
You and C's were hanging out.
What? What did I miss?
Isn't that
Brian was talking about the daycare.
Oh no, Brian, that's right. Yeah, Brian used to go to a daycare in a bowling alley, but it was in Michigan.
My mom had to go bowling. I guess my mom used to be a bowler. I never knew that. I didn't think about it until like I was way older. I was like, yeah, I remember when I used to go to preschool at the bowling alley, and she's like, yep, and I stopped, and I was like, when did you bowl? So I didn't even know. But yeah, I mean, I guess, and then I went to like just.
Don't know about me, son.
Yeah, exactly, and I don't want to.
You just think that she was bowling. Actually, she was in like part of a witch cult in the 70s.
My mom has told me some crazy stuff about her childhood. She beat up like 3 boys at the same time because they picked on her brother. She was like, I picked up a brick and I hit him, and I hit the one guy with a brick, and I was just like, what? That's insane. I'm like, Mom, you're supposed to be nice. But let's see, preschool. Yeah, there wasn't really. I mean, it was just like I'd go to like a church thing for half a day. It was basically all daycares. But then kindergarten. Kindergarten was kindergarten. I had my first girlfriend. Her name was Mindy. I don't know what the last name was, but her name was Mindy. And shortly after we were boyfriend and girlfriend, her parents moved her.
She cheated on you.
Right. She cheated on me.
With the football team.
With the kid who's got the building blocks. Kindergarten. Yeah, kindergarten was kindergarten. I mean, you'd go in, you'd play, and they'd be like, what's this letter? And you'd be like, it's D. And they'd be like, no, you idiot, it's H.
You're dumb!
Did you ever
go take a nap?
Did you ever have any fear that you would fail kindergarten?
No, because I was actually pretty good at it. I was actually...
You were good at taking a nap and eating snacks?
Pretty much. We didn't... But hey, in North Olmsted's known for their school system, and there was no way that they were going to use naps in a kindergarten. Well, okay, maybe back then. But I don't remember napping at school. I don't remember napping in school until 7th grade. That's when that all started. French class.
All right, we're not there yet. So
right, not there. So go ahead.
So, then elementary school.
Kindergarten was cool. First grade, then I went to Forest in North Olmsted. I lived right around the corner from there. And first grade was all right. I hung out with Clay Mueller, and pretty much it was just him and this other dude, Brian Kent, because none of the popular kids, I guess the popular kids in first grade or whatever, they didn't want to play with me. They wanted to beat me up. Probably because I smelled and I wore old clothes. But
at least you're honest about it.
Right, you know what I mean? I smelled like poop, and I had
Pigpen.
Yeah, and I was wearing pajamas under my clothes and stuff because I was It was crazy.
You grew up just like my brother, me, retarded.
Right.
You look back at yourself like you look back at your child. You're like, what the fuck? Why didn't somebody stop me? You know,
right? Yeah. Why didn't somebody stop me?
My parents didn't want me to live.
Dude, I have a school picture where I had my shirt on fucking backwards. Not only did nobody fucking care, nobody fucking
clearly sticking out the back. This big shooting grin on his face.
Dude, it's ridiculous. Nobody fucking noticed. I gotta find those pictures.
Put the shirt on.
They're so ridiculous.
Except the bullies afterwards.
No, but see, that's the thing. Is like my mom found me a picture from like when I was in first grade, like the class picture, and I'm standing there with this stupid fuck grin on my face, with this like blue shirt with this huge collar, and like these plaid, yellow, blue, green plaid. I don't even know what color pants they were, and they were too short. I know I couldn't see my feet, but I knew the pants were too short. They were floods.
Every picture I ever had, it was after fucking recess. So my hair, I was all sweaty, and my hair was all like combed back with that ace comb and shit. I always had dirt on my face and shit.
If they had pictures after recess for me, it wasn't a problem because nobody liked playing with me. So I would always just like walk around. I was the kid sitting. I was the kid sitting on the giant rock with the stick in one hand and a leaf in the other.
Drawing shit in the dirt.
Right. And everybody comes walking. And I was the guy who got kicked in the nuts by the chick, and all the chicks laughed at me. And, it was a good time. I'm condensing because if I broke it down, it doesn't matter if I break it down by grade levels or whatever. Until about until about fourth grade, somewhere like that. I remember. Oh my God, I remember it because it was the day I broke through. I'm standing on the playground. And, being the geeky little nerdy kid that nobody likes, you always find out the information that nobody cares about, and you always say stupid stuff that nobody really even, you know what I mean? Like the geeky kid that says something and you just kind of stare at him like, I want to punch you in the face, but it would just be stupid of me to do that. I'm just going to walk away. I'm not going to say anything. So I went up to the lady, the recess lady. And I'm like, how much time do we have? And she's like, 10 more minutes and I'm blowing the whistle. So I ran over to the most popular kid in the school, and I was like, he was playing goal when they were playing soccer, which nobody invited me to play, but I really wanted to. And I ran up to him and I said, Chuck, you guys got 10 minutes and recess is over. And he just looked at me and he says, get in goal. And that was it. I was like, oh my God, I'm playing soccer with everybody. This is great. And then from there on, it kind of was.
They just kicked the ball at you.
Right. From there it got a little bit better. I mean, I got my ass kicked a lot in first, second, third grade. I was the kid that would bring a book in. They'd be like, the teacher would be like, well, we asked Jimmy and Donnie and Susie to bring in some books for the class to read. Don, what did you bring? And I'm like, I brought Treasure Island. She's like, I brought whatever, Berenstain Bears. The whole class is like, we want the Bears, the Berenstain Bears. And I cried because I was like, you don't like my book. It was a really bad childhood.
So that Berenstain Bears is like 4 pages long.
Right.
Just with this fucking War. I brought War and Peace.
Right.
Cool, yeah.
I brought The Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah.
This book is called The Stand by Stephen King. So I mean, it got better towards third, fourth grade. The kids started they were talk to me, and they'd call me up and actually have me come over and play with them, and we'd do stuff. And we always had a band going on, and we always were playing fake instruments. Then I met Kevin Rom in 5th grade. And anybody who listened to last week's Tumbleweed show, oh my God, what a fucking train wreck.
It was good. I liked it. I thought it was entertaining as hell.
Of course you thought it was entertaining, but I mean, think about me. I'm the guy that was like, okay, Kevin, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to call you on the phone. You're going to call me. We're going to talk. Dude, we're just going to talk. We're just going to talk about old times. People want to know about our stories.
That's awesome.
They want to hear about us and, what it was like. And, blah, blah, and I got nothing. I got absolutely nothing from them. I got him playing licensed music. I'm like, dude, don't do nothing.
He played music and
he's playing licensed music. I'm like, dude, you can't do that. You got to stop that. He's like, oh, okay. 10 minutes later, he's like, you know what? I don't give a fuck. Here, listen to this. And it's just like, dude, really? I mean, really? You gonna do that? I mean, that's so. Anyways, I met him in 5th grade. How far off am I supposed to go?
Up to 6th.
Okay, up to 6th. Yeah, I spent all the way up to 6th grade. I spent in Forest. I met Kevin in 5th grade with Mrs. Warblock. Let's see if I can do this. Kindergarten was Miss Oshesky, who later got married and changed her name to Miss Hinkle. Then 1st grade was Mrs. Hubach. 1st grade, there was a very traumatic experience. I think it actually affected my schooling the rest of my life. I was in a strictly 1st grade class. Well, right next door, Mrs. Volashin had a half and half class, half 2nd graders, half 1st graders, and all the 1st graders were supposed to be the smart ones and stuff like that. So one day, Mrs. Hubach came up to me. She goes, yeah, we're going to switch you over to Miss Volashin's class. And I'm like, I don't want to do that because the 2nd graders in there were the ones who were always picking on me and beating me up. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And she's like, well, you don't have much of a choice. You're going to go over there. You're really smart and you're intelligent. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. My brother had to show up and he was like flipping me upside down, bouncing my head off the ground. He's like, quit crying. You're going to do it. And then from there he was like, well, if you got a problem with the kids, I'll teach you Taekwondo. And here, I'm going to show you all this. It was really bad. I went into that class. I got picked on all the time in that class. I saw my first vagina in that class, actually. So that shouldn't. No, actually, no. I saw one before that.
Live?
I forgot. It was well, I mean, live. Yeah. I mean, that was the first one where the girl actually said, here, take a look at this.
Well, it could be on a slide or something. So it was like,
right. This is a vagina. It looks like a line down the middle of the
live,
street.
or is it Memorex? No.
So I think that affected my childhood or my schooling, because from that point on, I was like, well, shit, if this is the way they treat you when you're smart, I'm going to be dumb.
You just sat around and thought about the vagina.
Yeah.
And all right. Cease.
Oh, God. Yeah, elementary school. I started off in Co-School, which is when I lived on Lorain Road, which is a major 4-laner, damn near a highway. And the school was across the street. And it was very old brick, 4-story brick building. And I met the town bullies there, and they were relentless and kicking the shit out of you as soon as you got in. You get there, and you have to wait in line before they'd open the doors. And being me, I was early because I lived right across the street. And when I was there, they had plenty of time to kick the shit out of me before I could get into the classroom. So by the time you pick up your book bag and your ripped jacket and get inside, get the bloody nose to stop. It's time for class. We also had a principal who looked like it was a Brutus from Popeye, and his name was Mr. Bruce. So we're
Mr.
like,
Bruce.
yeah, yep. Mr. Bruce, man, this fucker, he was good with the wooden pallet, and he had the one. I even drilled the holes in it so it'd go quicker. But that son of a bitch never got me. Scared the living hell out of me all the time. He'd always bring you in the room and just like bring it on and start smacking it on the desk and shit in front of you, Be like, you can get this, But I never got it. I thank God. I think one kid got it because he was the biggest. Somebody saying something over there?
No, I was just going to ask, is that Warren Bruce? Mr. Warren Bruce?
I have no idea.
I think it was.
Could have
Glasses.
Glasses.
Beard.
Yeah. Yep. Looked like Brutus.
That was my third grade teacher at Forest. Go on.
That's crazy. Anyways, after that, I went to Elm.
Because they mowed down Co.
Where's Elm?
What?
They you got to tell everybody because they took a bulldozer.
They closed it down. Yeah, they closed it down in second grade. I remember they always had this competition. There was like one girl. All right, everybody liked her. Her name was Becky. I mean, and everybody would be like, how they have these competitions, like, oh, who does Becky like this week? And she'd go through the whole crowd, and you'd be like last at the last day of school, and you're like, oh, I like you, and then it'd be like all fluttery throughout the whole summer, but it was a big lie, Anyways, so then I went to
okay.
I went to Elm.
So she picked. Are you saying she picked you at the end of the summer?
At the last day I was there when it was like
all right
closing.
Never to see her again.
Yeah, I never got to see her again. But she went to another school, and then I went to.
That's
Elm.
what she says.
Now, during Elm was a very awkward time in my life. Like the clothing thing, like Don said before, I was absolutely horrible. I mean, I had like rough skins and shit. Nothing was ever Sears bought. It was always like Gold Circle, bottom of the line. We picked it off the last year's rack, And,
I think
we got you 2 pairs of pants because they were both $1.
I think Anderson was about to ask this too. Where was Elm?
Yeah, where was Elm?
Elm is it's off of Columbia Road, and
it's off of Elm, isn't it?
It's behind Drug Mart. You remember that there's a school behind Drug Mart?
I thought that was Birch. Yeah.
Birch? Is it Birch?
It was Birch or Maple.
Same thing. Elm Birch, same thing.
Pine.
Anyways.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
my memory sucks. Sorry.
Whatever. It's cool.
Anyways, I'm trying to keep people from looking me up. That's what it is. Anyways.
Right. He didn't go to Birch School. He went to Elm. Stupids.
Well, they closed the one behind Drug Mart, too, when they closed.
Yeah, that one was closed, too. I actually went there till 6th grade, and they closed it.
Right.
No, that's where The Rock was a janitor at. He was a janitor at
Well, they turned it into like a or a preschool even. Yeah.
Right.
All right, sorry, Cease, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. I just lost my whole train of thought here. Thanks. Anyways, my clothing was bad. So, like the first 2 years I was there, this is like 3rd and 4th. Oh my God, these dudes were like relentless. Like, they'd like rip your shit up and throw it down. And there was a clique of them. There's like 20 of these fuckers, and there's nothing you could do. Even all the kids couldn't get together. Wouldn't have enough kids to beat their ass. So we tried everything. And I remember one time my parents finally broke down and bought me a jacket that I kind of liked. It was like this red wind blocker, whatever you call those damn things, windbreaker. And it had STP on it. Back then, it was like the big racing shit, and it was like, yeah, I finally got a cool jacket. It doesn't have like an animal on it that's smiling at me, And I was like, I get to school, and the same thing. You had to sit there and wait in front, even if you got bussed or anything. You had to sit there and wait outside. I don't know what it was, why they got us there early. You know, what the hell's the problem? Can't get us inside, but we're all sitting there, and I'm sporting my jacket, and a couple of my friends like, yeah, hey, that's kind of cool, you know. And I hear from way in the back of the line, what's STP stand for? Soggy toilet paper? And I'm like, that was the last time I ever fucking wore it. The first and last. I'm like, oh, man, fuck. Took it off, put it in my locker. Gave it
Soggy toilet paper. That's awesome.
The shit we used to think was funny back in those days.
The shit that we thought was so offensive. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh my God. You're going home. You're like, oh my God, they called it soggy toilet paper.
Oh, yeah. They said they called it soggy toilet paper.
Yeah, and
my mom's like, why don't you wear it? And where is it? Oh, I left it in the
toilet. Why didn't you wear that jacket anymore? It fell in the toilet. It was soggy.
So then, third grade, my brother was kind of an idiot, and he had all these like firecrackers left around and shit. So I thought it'd be cool, drag some to school. And there were these little lady fingers that are in a big pack. You know, if you light them, they all go off. You know. And I was like giving them out to people, trying to be all cool and shit. And this one girl is like a big mouth. She's like, "Oh my God, Don has firecrackers." And Mrs. White she was the coolest teacher. I thought she was so nice of me and all that shit. But then she turned into this evil witch all of a sudden. She's like, "What?" She picks me up by my ear, rips me out of the classroom. She's like, give me them, let me see them. And takes them out of my pocket. I'm like crying. Oh, dude, they were telling me I was going to get suspended and everything. They're calling my parents, and my parents, you know, I'm like, you don't want to get them called. The last thing you want to do is like involve them with anything. You know, it's like, and you know, I can hear my dad on the phone like, I'll kill him. You know,
Didn't everybody's dad say that?
It's like, great, I'm dead.
Yeah, we just like kind of burst into the room.
Right. So yeah, I actually got suspended for like 3 days and shit. And oh my God, grounded for a year. I think it was something insane. You know, not like I was doing anything or had any friends, anyways. But you know, it still sucked. But I had to stay inside and do all the fucking chores and shit. You know, but
I don't know how to fold the towels.
So 5th grade is starting leaning out some of the assholes from the group, and then we started getting stronger and shit and bigger. You know, like, well, now we're going to take over this place. And I met this one kid named Kelly. What was his first name? Damn, can't think of it. Tim Kelly. And he was just a monster. He'd fight anybody. He would do anything. You know, he came into like 5th grade with a leather jacket and the fucking ripped up jeans and shit, smoking cigarettes. I'm like, oh, all right, you know. He's like, what the hell are you letting this guy talk to you like that for? What the hell's the matter with you? And I'm like, I never fought because my old man, if he ever stood up for yourself, he'd just get like completely emulsified, you know. And then my brother would beat my ass later, you know, and shit like that. So this kid is like, dude, what the hell are you putting up with this kid for, you know? And it was just like the jock of the whole school, you know, the soccer player, football player and shit. And we're playing basketball, and I'm like, yeah, what am I putting up with this for? And we start fighting this kid, you know. And I didn't get my ass kicked, but I finally, you know, it's just like kind of like got him on the ground and shit. And then we were like, the teacher pulled us away, and no one bothered me after that. Because I was like, you know, I was starting to get tall and shit. And it was like, yeah, I'm cool now. I fought the dude, you know. Didn't win, but yeah. And that'll get me to 6th grade.
Okay, so like I said, I started off in Baker, and then they closed Baker, and then I had to go to Shalm. And Shalm was a little bit further away, and this was still in Michigan at the time. And sometime during this process, my dad got divorced. I forget what year it was, but things were going downhill in our house at the time. And even though Brian went to school, I never saw him because, I don't know, he was too cool for me or whatever. And
you were a dork.
I never had any problems with bullies because I hung out with like the coolest kids in my class. This is in Michigan, which was Kurt McLeod of the Clan McLeod.
McLeods.
The McLeod. There were 4 brothers, and all their names started with a K. And I hung out with Kurt, and I don't know. He was just a cool customer. His dad was like one of them hard-working guys that like you just didn't fuck with. And, you know, the whole family was kind of cool and collect because, you know, if they did something wrong, I think their dad would just take a piece of pipe to him or something. I don't know. He was a good guy. And then I hung out with this other kid, Jason Wolf, and he was a nut job. So it's always good to hang out with people that are a little bit like they're on like a hair trigger, kind of like Kevin Vinoy.
Yeah.
Because like if you just like you don't have to ever worry about getting into a fight. You know, it's kind of like if you're somewhere with them, right, and somebody else says something to you, that guy goes and fights them. You know, you're just like, wait, who's looking at us? What are you talking about? You know, and then
what about me? Why'd you just kill him?
The kid fought everybody, man.
Yeah, and hold on, I lost Larry. Let me get him back here.
He says, oh, if you hang out with Kevin Vinoy and he gets in the fight, Kevin Vinoy will fight. Isn't that what happened when I got punched in the face?
Right, Kevin Vinoy got into a fight. Exactly.
He got into a fight, and then I got into a fight.
Well, you know.
Well, Kevin, he wasn't that. He wouldn't fight for you.
Or
He'd
Bill
just,
Bailey.
Start the shit, and then he'd run away and be on a garage with a fucking golf club somewhere.
Bill Bailey's the same way. You could just hang out with Bill Bailey, and then he'll be like, that guy's looking at it, and we're like,
you never know.
Right, like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he'd just start, like, he'd be in a fight with him. So... but then sometimes that wouldn't work out to your advantage either. Like the time Jason or Eric Butero went around and just beat everybody up for like, I think he beat up Bruler just by smacking him. Like he was.
That's probably all it would take.
He was in front of like the police station and he just sat there and just kept smacking him around in front of the police station until he got busted. Larry, that's your.
Yeah,
oh my God,
go
dude.
kind of nuts there for a while.
You got to turn your mic down, dude.
And him and I don't know. I never had a problem with that kid.
Butera? No, he's totally nice. It's just that I don't know what, because I've never been there when he does the damage, but he snaps or something. Anyway.
Yeah, he's like, I mean, I don't know. I remember one time I was at a party, he said something like a joke towards me and stuff, and I'm like, I looked at him like I didn't hear it. I didn't really hear what he said. And he came up to me later, he's like, dude, I'm sorry, man. I didn't know you were seeing this girl. I'm like, seeing what girl? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, all right, whatever.
No, I was like, I went to court with that guy, and like we went to Denny's later and stuff, and like what happens is that he just gets worked up. Like some guy was like messing with him, and then he said some things to him, and then he just gets all like, you know, he just steps outside. He's like, I think there's going to be a fight. There's going to be a fight. You know, I'm just standing there like, what's going on? I was just having pancakes a minute ago. I don't even know. You know, like you're waiting for some guy to come out, and but the other guy was like, I ain't going out there. That guy's crazy, you know, or something, because he never came out. But it's like, yeah, he's a little bit off balance. But, I mean, the school took him to court, you know. I went to court with him because the Spanish teacher said, like, he took something out of her purse or something. I mean, it was bizarre. But, anyway, so I never had any problems with bullies or anything. That school was okay. But the problem was that my dad left for work, and he left me in charge with these, like, babysitters that are, like, morning babysitters that are terrible. They don't even really care what you're doing. They're just like, have you shown up? Okay, go to school. You know, they don't know. They don't care what you got on. They don't give a shit. So it's like I would sometimes go to school with just a pajama top on, you know, and I'd be like, I forgot my shirt. You know, I had no idea. And I was like not doing well. Like I would have failed third grade, but my dad got remarried, and my stepmonster told the school that I was going to that I would be okay if they put me in fourth grade. She'd make sure I was okay. So they went ahead and they put me in fourth grade, and this was in Ohio, and I went to Spruce. And in case anybody's wondering, because we keep talking about all these like foresty things, they named all the elementary schools in North Olmsted after freaking spruce, pine, forest, chestnut, shit like that, butternut. It's all
maple.
Everything except
Forest.
Elm, the one I brought.
No, Elm was a school, but I don't know where it was. I know what you're. I think it was up more towards like Center
I thought
Ridge.
there was an elm. That's why I was wondering where it was.
I think it was up more towards like Center Ridge or
Elm.
something, behind Buckeye Lanes or something up there.
That was maple.
Oh, that was Maple. See, I know there was an Elm though. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It might have been
I
in
had
another
to go to Maple for 2 weeks.
another city or something. So I went to Spruce, and I had a sister all of a sudden. Who was
experimenting.
Who was my age, and neither of us had been to this school before. But they put us in. Luckily, there was 2 fourth grades, and I had a teacher in fourth grade, Mrs. Manning, who was pregnant, and she was pretty well along. And she was like, "Well, I'm going to, do school for like a little while, and then Mr. Sailor's going to take over." All right,
Sailor.
Yeah.
Spruce School had the Woods program. Okay, we had a forest of small size. It's kind of a misnomer to call it a forest, but that's what that's.
There's a stand of trees.
Right. It was
laser tag in it.
It was a little bit bigger than a bunch of trees, but it wasn't very large. And they had the woods program, and Mr. Saylor would teach this, and other schools would send their like 5th grade class or something over, and they would tap the trees for maple syrup, and they would like do things. It would be like a week-long program for those kids, and they would rotate them in and out of the school. Well, because Mrs. Manning was leaving, the principal was like, well, we'll have Mr. Saylor teach 4th grade. All of a sudden, my 4th grade got really animated. He'd come in wearing buckskins and playing a flute. Yep. You know,
that was awesome.
He'd take you out with
like that when I was in school. They would have been like, grab a net, get him.
We had this thing that Mrs. Manning had started called, they were like reward tickets. And what would happen is like you would do well on a test and you'd get some reward tickets. And then at the end of every week, there would be like a little auction. And she would like hold up a chocolate bar and she'd be like, okay, who wants to bid for the chocolate bar? And then all the smart bitches who had their parents help them with their homework would, win all the free shit. And but when Mr. Saylor took over, he was all like, all right, who wants the snake skin?
Anybody want a belt buckle?
Right, that's the kind of shit.
The frog's eyelid.
It was all crazy. And, like, you'd have to do book reports and stuff, and he's like, all right, you're going to do a book report on the Titanic and stuff. And you're like, what the fuck? All right. I remember I had to do something on Tiny Tim or something, that midget, and all this kind of stuff. So that was interesting. So 4th grade, I hung out with this guy, Ron Reese, who was about as big as like an 8th grader at the time.
Home.
And
monster.
He was a good friend of mine for a while, but then he got into, I don't know if it was drugs or theft or something, but ended up. I remember he vanished, and then I saw him again later when I was in high school and stuff, and he was like showing me bullet wounds that he had, and like in his chest and in his hand, and he was just showing it to me. He was like, I got shot here, and I got shot here, and then I never even thought to ask, well, why'd you get shot or anything. I was just like, wow, you want to play football after school? He was, no, I can't. And I was like, all right. So I don't know. He was around for a while, but then he vanished again, and I don't know what the story was with that dude. But anyway, I hung out with that guy for a while, and that was the years when we had the paper routes, and that should be a whole show because it's fucking horrible. One day when Brian and I just do a show, we'll talk about paper routes. And 5th grade and 6th grade was largely the same, but I did want to repeat the one thing that I'm sure anybody who's listening to this show might know the story about. But we had this thing in 4th grade called the Paper Football Championship. And
here we go. Okay,
there it is.
So in the Paper Football Championship, they had, in the way the school was set up, you had two. They called them pods because you had the lower classmen, which was 1st through 4th in the lower pod, which was just like an area. And then you had the upper pod, which was 5th and 6th. They just how they divided up the kids. Right. And kindergartners were behind the gym on the other side of the building because everybody could kick their ass, so nobody wanted to put them with us. So
General Pop.
Right. And so I beat everybody in the lower pod. First of all, the 1st graders and the 2nd graders were, they have no motor skills.
Put them in a pit.
Yeah, they're just useless. And then
2 go in, 1 come out.
I beat my class. And then that Ron Reese guy was like, you cheat, dude. You're a cheat. That's how you win. You cheat. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, how do I cheat at paper football? Fucking don't know what you're talking about. So I managed to make it through, and they decided to have this big fucking thing in front of the whole school between the winner of the lower pod and the winner of the upper pod. They had cheerleaders and music playing, and we were on the stage, which was in the living room, in the gymnasium, and there was like a stage in there and everything, and we had to play, and I was playing the 6th grader Brad Tabar, and just destroyed me, because he's a 6th grader. He probably just has, he's just better at it. I think the score was like
on steroids.
The score was like 21-3 or something, and I immediately just started bawling my eyes out in front of the whole school.
Right?
Just made everybody feel bad and everything, and I'm just like, oh, fuck. So I just went.
Pressure.
They're like, why did we put that little kid up against the 6th grader?
That's really what it was, dude. It wasn't because I lost.
Oh, he got home and got reamed.
Man. I just
one was even worse. My stomach was like, cry for the house, God.
Yeah, everybody was embarrassed because they knew me or something. I don't know.
You lost at paper football.
Well, I will say that my fellow
wrong kid died.
My fellow students were pretty good about it when the teacher probably pulled them all aside and was like, all right, we're going to go in there now. Everybody just don't say anything to him, So everybody just treated me normal and stuff, even though in the back of their mind they're thinking, what a pussy. But
don't pick on the pussy.
Yeah, I mean, it was just we lived in a high pressure household. If that hasn't been, surfaced on the show by now.
Yeah,
and that when you just add anything to it, that was just like the breaking point. So,
anything.
Just a couple other small things. Do you guys remember? Did you go North Olmsteders? I don't know if Larry did or not. Did you guys go to Mohican?
Yes.
Yes.
No. Hated it.
I totally forgot about this.
Mohican in sixth grade, what you do is you go out and you sell fucking candy bars for
God.
I don't know, to try to make enough money to help pay for your trip to Mohican. You don't get this money. It goes to the school to pay for this trip. And what they do is then, I don't know, I don't even know, there's supposed to be a quota, but the school will like cover it if you don't make it. And there's always those kids that
you aren't getting a kickback if you go way over it.
Right. There's always that kid that eats the whole box of candy bars and then doesn't have the money and the teacher's pissed.
That was me.
No, I had a scam, but it wasn't like that.
Well, what was it?
Because in our school, they were like, you sell the candy bars for $1, you keep 50 cents, and you give 50 cents back to the school.
Whoa, you had a better system than we did.
Yeah, what the hell? We had to give all the
exactly.
money back.
Forest, man. Hello.
We didn't
Forest,
get the money.
Forest engulfs all the trees. You guys were just in tree schools.
They didn't give you 50 cents. There's no way
they said for every dollar you make, you keep 50, and you give us 50.
No.
Oh,
yeah.
No way were they letting kids fucking make money, dude. No way.
Didn't you just say you sold candy bars to make money so you could go on this trip?
But not for myself. It went to the...
Yeah, no, you had to pay for it. You paid for the candy bars. You got them half price, and then you sold them double the price.
Yeah, all right, but that paid for your trip. They still got all the money.
Well, no, it didn't. Everybody gets their money, and I get money too. But the thing is I didn't do that. Is like I'd go out and I would sell like 3 candy bars, and I'd be like, okay, 3 candy bars, $3. Well, I guess I'll just eat my profit. And I just started eating candy bars. I was like, for every candy bar I sell, I would eat one. Because if I'm giving them 50 cents, they get their 50 cents, and I spend the other 50 cents on the other candy bar, so they're getting their 50 cents anyways. See what I'm saying? So I was eating candy bars like a motherfucker.
This is why kids beat you up.
And then his mother wrote the check for the other 50 cents for all the candy bars.
Right. And then I sold all these candy bars, and my parents were like, how come you only have $1.50?
No, your parents are like, why are you so fat?
Right.
Like,
why are we going to the dentist 5 times a week?
I've been eating candy, Bobby.
Yeah.
That's why my teeth are so fake. That's why all my teeth are fake.
Oh, I shit my pants. So, So anyway, you sold all these fucking candy bars, and you got on a bus, and you went on a long-ass ride out to this place called Mohican. And it's just a big campground, and everybody got a cabin. You had to stay in a cabin with like 20 other kids, and they weren't all from your school. Right. You would be mixed in with all these other a-holes from other schools that you didn't know.
We didn't have anybody else.
Really? You got lucky.
Oddly enough, all the bullies from the other schools knew exactly to come to me. Yeah. I don't know how and I'm like, dude, I'm in 6th grade. I said, I'm popular now. The kids like me now.
We went in the middle of winter. It was like freezing.
Yeah, we were in winter too. Yeah, it sucked.
And I got the shit jobs. I get to clean the toilets and bring in the fucking firewood.
They would try to make everything into an exercise. Like you would go out and you would do like compass training or build a wooden stool or tap trees for syrup or whatever the hell was going on. There was like, if you went in the springtime, which I didn't go, there would be canoeing and fishing and stuff.
Yeah,
animals just walking around.
It'd be like
winter
just
time,
sledding.
You'd be out, picking up bug shit or something. I don't know.
And Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, if you want to stop and talk about Mohican for a while, I got fucking stories. But
maybe at the end of the show, if we if we have
that's what okay.
Okay, so
don't be mad, Brian, just because you didn't go.
So that's a 6th grader thing. So that's kind of where we'd round out 6th grade. So Brian, junior high.
Brian's gone.
He is gone. What happened to him? Did he fall asleep while we were doing the show? I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I can't talk about Mohican. I'm done.
Skipping middle school.
Done with it. I don't even like doing this show anymore. I've quit. just gonna not.
I'm not going to tell him I quit. I'm just going to hang up and not answer his calls anymore.
Probably hooking up his new computer right now.
What does this button do? Oh, that's power. Well, fuck it. I'm going to sleep. You know.
I did hear snoring.
That was you from a few sports shows ago. All right, so let's see. Then Anderson, you'd be next. Do you remember
7th grade?
Now, it was middle school for you, so
Right, I went right into middle school.
Oh, now, yeah. Just to make this clear, you weren't one of those kids that was in 6th grade middle school, right?
No,
Okay.
no. I went into middle school thinking that I was going to be the youngest, and then when I got in there, they were like, "Yeah, he's a 6th grader," and I'm like, "They have 6th grade here?" I didn't know. I thought it was just 7th and 8th, but it was 6th, 7th, and 8th. But I only went for the 2 years. You want me to talk about it now?
If you have any stories.
Well, it's the first time I slept in class and actually realized I got away with it. So I decided to do it every day in every class from that day on. Although I did get busted at times. Middle school.
You went to North Olmsted Middle School, right?
I went to North Olmsted Middle School.
Were you kind of weirded out by the fact that like all of a sudden you had a choice by your lunch line?
Yeah.
I always thought that was a little bit weird because in my school we only had one lunch line, and then all of a sudden you get to the middle school and you've got 3. You got the burger and fries lunch line, you got the pasta lunch line, and then you've got like the main
salad
lunch line, which is like Salisbury steak. Or
I mean, it's all confusing though because it's like your first real locker where you need a lock.
Right.
It's the first bells between classes. You got to get up and go. You got to move from here to here. You're right. You got to go get this book out of your locker and get back to this side of the building before whatever. You know what I mean? It's all it busts out.
Scheduled. Yeah. It was
Remember when you found out you didn't have recess and you were like all bummed out about it? You're like, what?
Yeah. Seriously?
Dude, what are you supposed to do?
You get study hall.
Yeah, you got to study the whole
study
time.
hall. Yeah.
Well, it was the first time I got to go back on a bus. Because they wouldn't bus me because I was too close to my elementary school. And that was like that was a terrible situation because it was like I had to be at the corner at a specific time. And like I said, this is the first time I learned how to sleep in class. So I started sleeping in and I would be late. And I'd be running down the street, heading towards the corner as the bus is coming towards me. You know what I mean? Because that's where the corner was. I had to go, I had to go west and the bus would come east. So the bus is stopped at my stop. I'm running every day, almost every day. Bus would pick up all the kids, shut the door, take off. I would stop running and be like, "Hello, I'm right here." And she would just shake her head no and just drive by.
Nice.
And I'm like, I'd be like, she's like, "You got to be at that bus stop at that time. I don't care." And I'm like, "You can't just stop." She's like, "If I stop for you, I got to stop for everybody." And I'm like, "You should just stop for everybody." But
I pay your salary.
Right. Yeah. My dad pays your salary, bitch. Yeah, so that, it was a lot of stuff to get used to.
How were your grades?
Changing for gym class. They were okay. God. They weren't that great. Now see, here's the thing is like through elementary school, I got picked on in elementary school, 1st, 2nd grade, stuff like that. 3rd grade, 4th grade, somewhere in there, I started getting popular again because I had all this KISS stuff and everybody was into KISS and all this blah, 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 blah. So by 6th grade, I'm like, I'm in, you know what I mean? Chicks are like, I actually like him, and I had girlfriends, and you know what I mean? Or I was going with girls or whatever. So then when we got to the middle school, then there was this total influx of people I did not know at all. I mean, like, at all. And they I honestly never had classes with people that I knew.
Yeah.
I always had to go to classes where I knew nobody. And so, like, my first friends were, like, Bill Chalkin and... what's his name? Scott Gerbach. Like, you know what I mean? The people get kicked around and tossed around, and I was just like, how did I do? Oh, great, there we go. And I put myself back at the bottom of the food chain again. It was quite terrible. And then, like, one girl would be like, "You stink," and I was like, "What?" She's like, "You smell." It's just
here we go again.
Right? Yeah. It's like, you gotta shut up. It's like, really, I just had.
And you really
class.
can't say anything, because they're like completely popular, and anything they say is golden. You can't let go. Well, you're just a bit, and everybody just starts laughing.
You could if you could think of something that was good, but back then
I couldn't. Yeah,
you're just incapable of it.
I was too freaked out by the fact that she just announced to the whole class that I stink. And it's like, you know what? I do stink. So what? I just got out of gym class. I need to fucking go home and take a shower, stupid. course, you're going to stink
How to
too.
use a toothbrush, whatever.
That's everything, but everybody goes through that in like middle school because you're just not quite used to the whole like hygiene thing yet. You know,
Right.
you
Yeah,
used to
too.
be able to wear like the same shirt 5 days in a row and not stink, and then all of a sudden you get like, I don't know, puberty and stuff, and then you just start reeking, and
Right.
you can't, you don't fit into things right anymore. You're all lanky and weird. Your shirts that used to fit would be like too short and all that. Yeah.
I'd go to put my hand up underneath my chin, and I'd look down my arm, and I'd just see dirt stains all down. And it's just like, oh damn! How can I not wash my arm? What did I do to my arm? It's all dirty. It was kind of middle school was weird. It was different. I started hanging out with Oz and like Roger Taylor and all them dudes. That crazy dude that was all about dead people, Bob Peoples and Jason Morrow.
So seriously, did we just lose Brian forever? What the hell?
Who's Morse coding it?
I think that's his
That's a signal.
computer that was fucking up before, wasn't it?
The mothership
Yeah, but
came in and finally took it back.
he hasn't even rebooted. He was fine, and now he's gone. It's kind of like, all right. I mean, whatever. I could
Like
call him on the phone.
Motherboard melted.
Just like that one time. Oh my god.
Yeah, what's that? Where'd Brian go?
The hell. All right, so Larry, junior high.
Yeah.
Junior high. Did you have a junior high?
Actually, I didn't have a junior high. I did have one other sort of grade schoolish story because it also sort of morphed into like daycare and all that shit with everybody else. My classic grade school or daycare story was I of course also had to go to a church-based one of those, which was nice, and to show you the sort of monsters that they put in these places to keep an eye on your kids. I don't remember how old I was. I was like 8 or 9 years old, and we're having lunch, and we were having coleslaw. And I didn't want the coleslaw. I didn't want to eat the coleslaw. So I told the teacher, I was like, this looks gross. I don't want to eat this. And, she starts yelling at me, eat your coleslaw. And I just said, no. Her response, hauled off and backhanded me. Like, out of my chair, onto the floor, across the floor, chair falling down on top of me because I wouldn't eat coleslaw. So that's my daycare story. But, no, I didn't have a middle school because in Catholic school, grade school runs, kindergarten through 8th grade. So I was in Catholic school till high school. Or I was in grade school till high school. So you get to skip me.
So 9th grade, basically?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Brian has managed to post up some nice stats on Facebook in the past few minutes, but amazingly not on the show anymore. So can sit on the computer, can do gay ass stats about me chart and shit on Facebook, but being on the show anymore, I guess, was too much effort for him because we're boring him while he's doing his MySpace survey.
I'm sure it's a problem with his headset that he's trying to work out.
I'm sure he's really working on it, doing the stats about me fucking thing. He's got 2 similar posts. What else did he do? Yeah, he offered Bill Bailey and friends some zombie survival kit gear, and he did the Dr. Seuss
and how many people he would kill if he got the flu.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Really? He's bored while he's doing the Dr. Seuss personality test? Come on. Really? What a letdown. Guess he's not going to be joining us anymore because he's busy with Facebook. Oh, my God. All right. Cease?
Yeah, you and I should do the same one here. This is where I met the Mr. Baird.
Now, those were like 10 and 15 minutes ago, though.
What? You talking about?
No, yeah, well, he's been gone that long.
No.
Yes. Yeah, trust me. Anyway, it was like 2 minutes ago when I first noticed him. So, trust me, he's doing those gay surveys. Well, Cease and I met in 7th grade. We had a teacher named Miss Cornell who was very animate and fun. She was the coolest. She would tell. We did a lot of discussions about the Ohio Indians, and she would tell us stories about how the Indians were like, these aren't the nice Indians that met the Pilgrims. And we would read these stories about how they'd cut open people's bellies, put hot coals in.
Put hot coals in. And their lower extremities.
So it was our first learning about
Mr. Forgash, the gay math teacher.
Adult subjects and things like that. Was he gay? I never thought about that.
Yeah.
I know Mr. Fagan was gay.
Was the Fagan the fat guy?
Fagan was the English guy, English teacher that was gay. No, Mr. Fagan was the...
Oh, yeah, Fagan was the bring your spider notebooks. Yeah,
right, okay. Yeah, he was gay.
Yeah, Forgash gay, too. He was always grab-assing the fucking boys in the class.
I never paid... I only had Mr. Forgash for one period, which was like math or something, so I didn't...
the math guy.
Yeah, I
never had him.
Didn't really pay much attention to him. The way it worked was like there was three. There were three teachers though in a block. There was Mr. Fagan, there was Mr. Forgash, and there was Miss Cornell. And Miss Cornell taught English. Mr. Fagan taught math, and Forgash taught math. Fagan taught English, and Mrs. Cornell taught history. And then like they were also like people's homeroom teachers and stuff like that. Like my sister wasn't in my 7th grade class. She was in like Mr. Forgash's homeroom or something. So I don't have a lot of memories about 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah, I remember everybody meeting up in the cafeteria every morning, and you would just be sleeping. I mean, you look like death. Yeah. Absolute fucking death. You were not a morning person at all. Everybody be like slapping you in the back of the head. You'd be just like, leave me alone.
Yeah, the thing about the 7th and 8th grade is that there's like a real maturity disparity going on. There's certain kids that reach puberty earlier, obviously, than other kids, and they're all interested in girls. And then there's some of us that are like, we're slower, and we're still interested in playing G.I. Joe. It's a really fucked up time. And some kids are like, they're just, because they've hit puberty, they're just big. They're just like big kids, and they haven't been properly weeded out yet. You know what I mean? Like, the teachers have not decided that the kid is unreachable yet and decided to ban them forever from school, but it's about to happen. It happens somewhere between, like, 8th and 9th grade, where, like, the kids then are, like, be gone, But in the meantime, we have to put up with them. And I tell you, in 7th and 8th grade, that's the only time I've been, like, bullied, and it's also, like, the only time where it's, like, it's pretty relentless. Like, it just kind of, like...
it's like that's all they got to do.
Right. It was just like a nonstop. Not like we ever did anything goofy or weird or anything. It just seems like it went on all the time because there was some kids that really didn't want to be in school, and they hadn't really, throwing them out yet. Basically,
I can't think of the kid's name. The big fucking kid.
There was all kinds of them. There was just all kinds of problems that Cease and I had in school. So did all the rest of our friends.
Most of the big kids weren't our problems. It was the
scrawny ones.
The chicks. The scrawny chicks.
Well, the chicks could give a shit, too.
Yeah, you look at these guys.
I didn't help myself at all, either. I always wore this jacket. It didn't matter where I was at, how hot it was. I always had this jacket on 24 hours a day. It was crazy. I'm like, do you got to sleep in that jacket? I'm like, it was like my security blanket or whatever.
I think Cease took it a little bit harder than I did, but that's because I had a sister and some guys wanted to go out with her, so they'd leave me alone. But, then my dad got divorced again, so I went off into 8th grade, and it was still hung out with Cease, and things were okay. But then, really... middle school, it's just a weird time. You're not old enough to work, but you're getting too old to like play with toys. So you just spend a lot of your time being bored. I mean, it's like it really is. It's some of the most boring times of your whole life. You just sit around and talk about how bored you are all the time. I'm so bored. You do a lot of bike riding. You ride your bike around and stuff. You do like jumps. And you try to play sports games with people. You play like soccer or football in people's yards and shit. You're just bored out of your fucking mind. And we'd play video games and stuff. But back then it was like, whose family could afford more than one cartridge? So you can only play Pac-Man 100 times and shit, and you're just like, all right, this sucks,
D&D came out.
You're right, Dungeons and Dragons, but even then you couldn't afford anything. You'd have to make shit up. All right, you're going to fight the 17-headed gargoyle. That's no such thing.
I hated that gargoyle.
It was just crap.
Making up our own games on paper, playing them in class.
That's what Kevin used to do. He would take a piece of paper and draw like a whatever
2D game, yeah.
And he would sit down next to you and be like, "Okay, tell me what you want to do." You'd just be like, "What?
You want to jump? You want to jump, dive, or
yeah, you want to punch, jump, dive, grab?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? There's nothing there. It's a piece."
Do it. And he's always
so Kevin invented text-based gaming,
right?
And he kept always running around with he always had this joystick of some sort, wrapped around. He's always carrying around with his books and shit.
Oh, I wouldn't say I was always carrying it around. Come on,
you're always, man.
He had a joystick with you?
He's like sitting at school with a joystick.
All right, now hold on. That was like in 8th grade.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
And the reason I did that is because my family couldn't afford a computer, but I had Commodore 64 games. So after school, I would walk to the mall, go up into Sears, and play games there until about 6 o'clock when my dad got home from work. Every fucking day I would do that.
I went once.
You guys...
We were sitting in class once, and he's like pretending he's flying this airplane with it. He had this... and Cornell, she's like, all right, land it, Baird. He's like...
Nice.
That was funny.
That's great. See, that's good stuff.
I tell you, if you guys are listening, if you think you're hardcore about video games, you're never so hardcore as me to go up in a blizzard to the fucking to the mall to play video games of your own on a computer that they have on display. Hold on, my brother's calling. So, Anderson, why don't you tell us about high school?
High school was all right.
And that's all I got. It was all right.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. No, let's see. I went in 9th grade. That's when I like the first days when I met Baird. So, I mean, we've gone over that. Once again, just all the kids that I met in the middle school all went separate ways, and then I started hanging out with. I mostly hung out with Kevin Rom, Osborne, Packard. That's when we started playing. We started playing in bands in middle school and stuff, and. In high school freshman year, riot in the gymnasium. They had a pep rally, and they brought the whole school in, and they put them up in the bleachers, and then had it's come on everybody, it's school spirit, and we're going to have the teachers play the cheerleaders in basketball, and it's just like you're watching this game. Me and Kevin were playing chess. He brought this little chessboard with him. Me and him were playing chess in this thing. Place got crazy. Place started to erupt. And I was surfing. I actually got caught crowd surfing down the bleachers. Let's see. Then I got back up into my seat, and then that's when they ended the pep rally, and they said somebody came over to the speaker. Okay, everybody, go back to your classes. Worst mistake they ever fucking made. Every single person got up and just ran for the door, like a whole school of people in a gymnasium. It was a complete and utter stampede. It was madness. It was insane. It was crazy. There was just people moshing, people were shoving, pushing. It was, and that's what everybody was doing. Everybody was just moshing through the hallways. It was like a swarm of bees coming out of a little hole and filling up the hallways of the school. You know what I mean? It was insane. And the next day they had, yesterday that was a disgrace. This was on the announcements in the morning. They're like, this is a mistake, or this was a disgrace. It was, you should all be ashamed of yourself.
Oh, sorry.
Wow.
Sorry.
What is that?
Brian, I had to call him on his cell phone. Sorry. I didn't know it was going to ring.
Hello.
Hello?
How are you?
Pablo.
Hello.
Okay. So the next day they had announcements, and the principal comes on and goes, that was a disgrace. You kids should be ashamed of yourself, and anybody who's caught moshing or whatever this is called, you get suspended for 10 days. And
we're into the middle years now.
Yeah, this is the freshman year of high school.
There we go.
You gotta have the hacky sack stories, man.
The whole me and Kevin playing chess in the bleachers, me going crowd surfing, mosh starting up, people going crazy, and they had the kid come on the announcements in the morning. They were like, "This is Matt, and he was busted up yesterday in this explosion.
I remember that, man. That was ridiculous.
And the kid's like, yeah, I got shoved.
Kidding me?
No.
Oh,
he's
it was
like,
so funny.
He's like, I got shoved and pushed, and I got an elbow in my face, and I fell to the ground, and nobody would help me. And you just see it in everybody's face. It's sitting there listening
down, and I
They're
can't
like,
get up.
Yes, they're like, why did you say your name? That was just so dumb. And that kid got it for the rest of his life. But it was pretty bad. He got smashed because the gymnasium has them doors. It's like 2 sets of doors, and it has the bar right in the middle. So the door, it's not like a big opening. It's just the 2 doorways, and people were just smashing into the bar, smashing into the doors. It was a madhouse. That was freshman year. And then I started growing my hair, and then I got a car. I started a band.
All right, stop at freshman year before you go to sophomore. Let's just do 4 years.
We hear how popular you were after high
Break
school.
it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, because I want to touch base. Brian, tell us about junior high. Yours was different, right? Because you were in like an
North
8th.
Olmsted Junior High School.
But it was like an 8th, 9th grade, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was different back when you were in school.
Well, yeah.
Back in your day.
Back when I was young, you kids, man, you and your rock and roll, you don't know what's tough.
Well, didn't North Olmsted High School used to have like a room where you could like smoke and play pool and watch TV?
That's high school. That was high school.
Yeah.
They had the courtyard area. That whole courtyard area, man, is where students and teachers would go smoke together.
Right.
Right? And then that's high school. We'll get into that later. Junior high was, we just moved out there from like, whatchamacallit? We moved out from like, Michigan, and I'm kind of like, what the hell is, what's this place like? What's Ohio like?
It's Mecca.
It was really weird.
Back 40 years.
Less tornadoes, more rain.
Yeah, and no hockey team. It's like what the fuck happened? Like where did everything go? So, for fuck's sake. Yeah, it was really bizarre. Like for me, it was just, everybody was a little bit more proper, than like Michigan schools. It was just like, because I went to junior high school in Michigan, and it was like you had junior high on one side, like a big horseshoe. Okay, so the junior high on one side, and then in the middle between the schools was the pool, right? Which is the one thing that I was like, there's no pool at this school. When I went to I was at junior high school, back in classes,
Right.
like there was a pool, and then the other side was the high school. So you had, if you were like in 8th grade, you'd like be bumping into fucking like 12th graders, and that's like a gigantic fucking difference in size. And so yeah, it was just, it was really weird. I was just like really kind of like tripping on people, like, wow, they're really kind of like dicks, So, but I mean, not to fool anybody, we all know I was a fucking major geek then, like I am now.
Were you in band in middle school?
No.
All right.
No, yeah, I was. That sucked. Because I used to watch Shine On all the time, dude. I'm like, I want to play saxophone, because you remember how our family was. It was like, guitars are the thing of the devil. I was listening to classical music until fucking like 9th grade. My fucking vibe had that beaten out of me. He's like, no, you're listening to metal.
All right, I want to point some out to our listening audience because it kind of fills a gap here, which might be a little bit confusing to people if you don't really understand this. Don Cease and I went to middle school together in 7th and 8th grade. And then I went to California for a year. And I kind of went to high school in Downey, which is outside of L.A., and it was a completely different experience than Cleveland School. Downey High School had no hallways. This was Warren High.
Because you don't have to worry about freezing to death.
Because there was actually 3 high schools in Downey. One was a Catholic school, and then there was one that was like for troubled kids because the credit system was different. In Cleveland, you had to have like, I don't know, something like 21 credits to graduate or something. 19. It was just the way their credit system was set up. But out in California, when you went to Warren, you had to have something like 220. And if you went to this other school that I can't remember the name, you only had to have like 185. So if you were a troubled kid, you went to the other school. But I went to this Warren school, which I was a troubled kid, but nobody knew yet. And it was It was weird because the weather was nice.
He was a troubled kid in the same way that, like, Damien in The Omen was a troubled kid.
And I hung out with some pretty cool people that were. I hung out with some Korean kids and Matthew Cho and David Kwan. David Kwan went on to be in the FBI. And I don't know whatever happened to Matthew Cho. And
Koresh ended up getting wanted by the FBI.
He got a sex change and became Margaret Cho.
This guy...
that was a good one.
Greg Viles and I ran one of my first BBS systems out there in California. And, I was kind of geeky back then, too. But... But it was actually, but you know what? Not as much because people are just more like laid back, like not late, like that's the wrong word for it too. Like it's not laid back, but more open to things. They don't really care. Like things are really intense in Cleveland. It's a good way to look at. Everybody just around here, it's like a melting pot. Everybody just seems like you're under pressure all the time, and they just want to get it out. By like torturing a small animal or something,
People just all they want to do. They just want to win. They don't care how they win. They just want to fucking be the winner.
And
they want to be right. They want to win.
Just not really that worried about like social situations out there. I never walked down the hallway and felt like somebody was going to fuck with me or anything like that. There were gangs, obviously. The Elm Street Playboys, which I think was like a division of the Crips or something, were in Downey at the time because it was like big back then and all that sort of stuff. But whatever. I didn't, I'm white. I had no idea what's going on. So, but I went out there and there were like some seniors and stuff, and they were all like, they'd see me walking on my way to school or riding my bicycle and stuff, and they'd be like, "You want to go to the beach?" And I'd be like, "Yes," because
Jesus,
because it was just like, why
should never happen.
Why would you go to? I mean, it was just like I don't want
to. Let me take your money so we can go to the beach.
And my mom was never home because she took this job opening this hotel, and there was nobody else around. So it was just like I couldn't study. It was just it was just fucked up, and there was no institution that was going to help me through any of this stuff. So I basically blew off like the other half of the year by just partying and hanging out with people. Not like I was drinking or anything, but just not going to school. So eventually my dad was like, "Well, you're going to have to come back." And I effectively had failed 9th grade.
Oh, yeah.
And I got no credits, even though I think I passed like health and stuff like that, because they lost all my transcripts. So when I went to North Olmsted, they just started me in the new school, and because I already had a job. Because my dad, when I got back, my dad was just like ridiculously broke. He's like, "You got to get a job so I can borrow money from you." And so I was like, "All right."
We were fucking broke, dude. Oh my god.
So immediately they were like, "We want to be in the occupational course," and I was like, "Yeah, okay." And so that's when everybody that was Cease had moved to Strongsville, which I'm sure he'll tell us about, and I had started school over again with all of the kids that were younger than me, and that's when I had homeroom with Don Anderson and Bill Bailey and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the timeline there. Before we get to Cease, though, Larry, what did you religious high school or?
For the first 2 years, I was still in Cleveland, so yes, it was a religious high school. I attended the illustrious St. Ignatius High School in beautiful, sunny downtown Cleveland.
Larry, let me ask you a question.
Ask me a question.
Since you were going to all these religious schools, did you really believe? Were you a believer at the time? Were you thinking, while you were there that, you and the Lord were one and all that?
Nope.
No.
I was going to school because my options were, go here where once a day I'm going to have a religion class and once a week I'm going to go to mass, or go to public school and probably get stabbed in the bathroom.
Did you always never believe, or did you just hit like 5th or 6th grade or something and you'd be like, you know what? This isn't true.
I don't consciously recall a time where I bought into it. I didn't used to be as anti-religious as I am today, but I don't recall ever being like, the Lord is my Savior. I shall not want.
Okay.
I did the church readings and I went to my masses and all that stuff, but I never, I don't recall ever being hardcore about it.
I never knew you spent that much time in the religious institution. So, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I had
quite a bit.
Yep. I had 2 years of Catholic high school. And now, unlike public schools, with the Catholic schools, they don't have to let you in. Like if you live in North Olmsted, when you are old enough for high school, you're going to North Olmsted High School, and there's nothing North Olmsted High School can do about it.
Right.
Well, until they kick you out for something. Now, with the Catholic schools, you have to make them want you. And so I had to take a test and prove that I was smart enough to go to St. Ignatius. And the first in a long litany of people and life in general screwing with me, I went and I took the test, and you basically go home and you wait for them to mail you the results. And I had pretty much decided I was going to St. Ignatius because that's where my buddy Dave Soprano was going. But
the test said otherwise.
Yeah. I got the results in the mail, and I failed the test. I was like, oh, man, I thought I did really well on it. And it's there were different categories, and I'm looking, and you needed an 80% on the test, and I had a 77% on the test. I was like, damn, what screwed me up? And I was looking at it section by section, and of the individual categories, my lowest score was a 96. I was like, how do you take a bunch of 98, 99, 96 and average it out to 77? So my dad was like, what the? So he called the school, and they pulled my test. Oh, yeah, sorry, there was a mistake. There should have been a 97. So I got to go there. Within a week of actually starting class there, I had already had one teacher, again, because this is Catholic school where they can still, inflict bodily harm upon you.
Sure.
Don told the story of getting away with sleeping in class. I was in my freshman algebra class, and I had my elbow on the desk, with my, kind of holding my head up, watching the teacher while he was up at the front of the class. And he took the textbook, and it was one of those big, giant-ass math textbooks, and whipped it at my head.
Yeah.
And I, ducked out of the way. He's like, that's for sleeping in class. And I looked at him, and I said, and that was, right at the end of class, and the bell rang. And as it rang, I asked him, if I was sleeping, then why did I try to get out of the way? And as I got up, he came over and grabbed me and shoved me against the desk, and don't you ever talk back to me in class. And then I got some detentions for that, which began my long history of getting detentions in high school. My second year at St. Did you say we're stopping after freshman year? Or?
Yeah, freshman. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's my only exciting story from freshman year. Although I will say this: Ignatius, unlike a lot of the other high schools where my friends went, it's an actual campus. There were multiple buildings to St. Ignatius. And because we had to go back and forth anyway, for lunch, we could go to the cafeteria, or we could go to the Wendy's across the street that period. Or even better, on the back side of the campus, there was always one of those hot dog guys with the push cart. The
roach coach.
You could get the hot dog guy hot dogs, which is the greatest food ever invented. So I would always go get the hot dogs for lunch, and but yeah, that's all I got from my freshman year. Oh, and I did have one semester where I finished up my class, and it was the bell would ring, and then you have 5 minutes or whatever to get to your next class. I had my one class, which was on the 6th floor of the main building, and then my next class was on the 3rd or 4th floor of the building that was on the other side of the central area. So I had to go down 6 floors of one building, across the mall, and back up 3 or 4 stories in the other building in 5 minutes, which was nice.
So that kept you in shape.
We had a McDonald's down the road, and there was a problem, and they stopped giving that to people. They couldn't go to the lunch anymore to go to the McDonald's. And I remember Anderson and I were in the occupational course, so we got out of school at 11:30. So it was we didn't have a problem with it.
Oh yeah,
school was over for us. We just in fact, Anderson worked at Wendy's, so we'd just go over there and get a discount burger and whatever.
Yeah.
It was all good.
I'd work for 2 hours.
Although
I'd still be, I'd be done with work and at home before people were even done with school.
Yep. Because Anderson had the most ridiculously easy job out of everybody. All he was a cashier, and he only worked for like a couple hours.
Oh no, I didn't start off as a cashier.
And he never had to work weekends.
I worked weekends.
When?
Dude,
I work
you don't
there?
even know.
You were never there.
You worked there for like a week. Your brother worked there for 2 days, and you worked there for a week.
I worked there for like a month. Brian worked there for a lot longer than I did, actually.
Brian poured all that grease on his foot. It's the funniest fucking thing I saw in my life. I'm standing in the back. All I hear is, "Get out of the way!"
We'll have to have a job show.
He comes hopping back.
We did already.
Opens the.
We did. No one had anything to say.
Dude opens the ice machine and just jams his whole leg right in there. I was like, "That's hardcore." Not drinking the pop tonight. No ice for me, please.
Yeah. But our cafeteria was ridiculously awesome. They were like doing some sort of experiments on like how to make lunch. Like how to make lunch.
Are we like talking like past?
Soylent Green.
Well, high school. No, they were like trying to make our lunchroom like better, like to make lunches more appetizing, because that was like a big thing back then. So they started bringing in like Pizza Hut, and we had a salad bar, and we had a juice machine, and I think there was like 6 lunch lines, and they just had everything. It was really crazy. But I didn't eat there very often because.
I was never there. I never had classes long enough. I was in high school for 5 years, and 3 of those years I had half days.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, it was always something available. So Cease parents built a magnificent home in Strongsville, and he got to go to Yuppieville.
Well, I didn't know. I still was in North Olmsted in 9th grade.
Right. Go ahead.
So yeah, well, if you're doing 9th grade, yeah, I was still in North Olmsted. I actually went to the North Olmsted High, and the first day, I remember my first day going there. I walked in, had my whatever backpacks and bullshit, your leaf notes and all whatever. I was walking through the hallway, and the first 5 minutes, some upperclassman slammed my arm and pushed me up against the locker. You and me in the parking lot after school. I'm like, didn't know the guy. Never seen him in my life. I'm like,
it's like that fucking movie, 3 O'Clock High.
Yeah, cause I'm like, okay, I'll meet you there. Because by this time, I decided to either fight it out or die crying. Because I met up with a lot of people I had problems with over the years, and I didn't take it anymore. It was the snapping year, and when I went there, I met a bunch of people that I just created hell for me that I haven't seen in a couple of years because I grew like 5 feet in a year, And they're like, holy shit, it's Cease. Hey, buddy. And I'm like, hell no, buddy. And I'm like, slam up against lockers and shit. And, and then I had like a little fouling there for a while because people are like scared to death. And, yeah. It was good. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I met a lot of cool people at that time. But then they had to, I had to move to Cleveland and start over in another class over in Strongsville. So
did you live in Cleveland and go to Strongsville?
Yeah. You remember going to Cleveland? That's when you came back.
I thought. Yeah, I forgot. I thought that was during the summer or something. I didn't realize you were going to school there too. Were you busing?
No, I wasn't going to Cleveland schools.
Right. Were you busing from Cleveland to Strongsville, or how were you getting?
Oh, my old man would drop me off in the morning. And
how long did it fucking take you to get to school? Strongsville, folks, is like Strongsville is in the farthest southwestern corner of the county from Cleveland. So
it was at least a half an hour drive there and back. And then I was going to football too, so they'd have to wait till like 5 o'clock at night to come pick me up.
What was with that, man? What was with you suddenly deciding out of nowhere that you were going to suddenly play football? What was that all about?
Well, like I said, like that 9th grade was my snapping year, and then when I get I said, screw it, man.
I'm going to become a jock. That's just what you decided.
No, you know what? I just wanted to do it because I always liked playing it, and I'm like, well, no one knows me here, so I'm not going to get that. I'm not going to get that. What are you doing here? Shit, So I'm like, you know what? I'll fucking try it.
Yeah, the hockey players will grab you. Like, get them.
So the first day I'm out there, and back then I had whatever long hair and whatever shirts, Iron Maiden and all that crap. And I'm walking out there, and all these jocks got these, their numbered shirts and shit, and the football pad pants or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know this place. This is the first time I've ever been here. I walk out there, and I'm like,
this. I'm like, is this a football practice? Because I had the paper and shit says be here at whatever, and the senior goes, no, it's fucking hockey, man. I'm like, dude, if I want to talk to asshole, I would have asked you first. I'm like, and I was like, since then I never had a problem in Strongsville. I mean, Strongsville was completely different compared to North Olmsted. North Olmsted, you're like fighting, running for your life, and Strongsville's up what are you? It's like, and at that time I was driving like a 72 LTD and shit, and everybody had brand new like Mustangs because there was a Strongsville Mustang, so everybody had a Mustang, So everybody didn't know how to take me. I was like waiting for fights and shit, but nothing ever happened. I never seen a fight over there. It was crazy. I'd like start pushing people and stuff, and they'd be like backing off. I'm like,
he had to be a bully, and still
I was like, dude, it was weird. It was weird. I swear to God, this one guy was like, talking down. One of my friends, he was huge, right?
You're not tough. Mike, I thought you said this guy was tough.
You're not so tough, Mike. Huh?
Not so tough.
So anyways, I just couldn't get it. I couldn't get over it. No bloody fights ever. And I mean, like Strongsville, North Olmsted was there.
Not your bike anymore, is it?
Seen like 10 of them in a week, There's teeth laying on the ground, But you go out there, it's like, oh no, we don't fight here.
Such a tough. Give me your jacket.
Gotta talk you down.
Such a tough guy bike.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Give me your.
I was back then. I was picking up kids and throwing them and shit, and I'm like, all right. But then after a while, once I hit 11th grade, I'm like, hit 11th grade, everybody's
like a Cyclops in the fucking movie The Odyssey, when you put the little fucking skinny kids walking behind you and
one
shit,
up and chew his head off.
He just bites one off. Kids have skinny meats.
Now, but before we break from this, you only played football for a year. What happened? Your knees got broke?
2 years.
Okay.
I played 2 years.
What happened with it to your knees?
Well,
or your
the first
legs,
year
or?
I blew out a knee, and the next year I blew out another one. I said, you know what? Screw this. 12th
What position did you play?
Anything. Huh?
What position were you?
That was lineman. Both. Oh. It was defense.
You're block.
Offensive the last year, and they had lettered, and they're like,
"Oh, you eat a lot of food
next year. You can come next year." I'm like, "Nah, I'm done."
Okay.
Like I want to be able to walk.
Brian, 10th grade.
10th grade. What about it?
What about it? Anything happen? You remember it? You were in band.
That's where I went to high school, and it's like first I had to start in band camp. I was like, "What's that?" Like it's I didn't really care. I was like, is it going to get me out of the house? Yeah, okay, I'm there. So I had to report to band camp, which was like, they tried to make it like some sort of like fucking army thing, like all yelling at you and shit, telling you what you got to do and stuff. And I'm like, this is cool, because it's getting me the fuck out of the house. So that was kind of cool. I got to at least meet some people that were like older than me, like in high school and stuff that, so I wouldn't like go in there with like no idea. Like, the only person I was going to know was my stepbrother, and I know he wasn't going to fucking talk to me. So I was like, well, that's kind of cool. He's like, And then, 10th grade, it was like we had like the one room I was talking about, which my senior year was a study hall, okay, but my sophomore year, it was a fucking whatchamacallit. It was you had couches and pool tables and a jukebox and a big fuck off TV. And like out in the courtyard, kids could smoke with the teachers and shit. And my junior year, that was gone. Like my junior year, that fucking room was like they had like stuff like just it was like a room they just put shit into it, And then they tried turning it into a classroom. Like no, it's just gonna be a study hall. So, but otherwise, it was like it was like the age of Aquarius was on its way out, and it was just like the cannibals of the class of '86 had just arrived. So. I hated school the whole way fucking through. I thought it was horrible, All
right. So, Anderson, 10th grade?
10th grade, I think that's when I got my license in my car.
Yeah, that never was going to happen for me.
so then I did a lot of driving. Nothing in particular. I've been sitting here thinking about it. I think that's when we started the real band there, Adversary. Maybe that was in 10th grade. It might have been 11th. Yeah, I think it might have been 11th. Yeah, I got nothing going.
All right, Larry, 10th?
You're about to lose me, so hit cease.
Okay, cease, 10th grade?
I kind of went over that with the football.
I was throwing kids around in the windows and, you know.
All right, in ninth grade,
giving them milk money. And,
Before you skip, before you skip me,
all right.
I do remember
at this
one
point,
kid.
I was raping people, you know, for money. And
Yeah, at this point, I cut some kid's throat in the middle of class. No,
Stick it right in the butt.
Anyways, remember this one kid. He
you're
was
like
the
Christopher
most
Walken in the
annoying
Prince of
kid.
New York.
Do you mind talking anything? Anyways, this one kid, his last name was almost exactly like mine. It was one letter off. And he was the most annoying son of a gun anywhere. He would pick on everybody. He would try to pick on me, but I always beat his ass like once a year to get him off, you know, just to leave me alone type thing. And it was so bad, he was in my driving class, in my car. He was in my homeroom. He was everywhere. He was in every single class. I hated this kid. I hated him. And I'm like, finally, I'm like, we're in the middle of driving class. We're getting ready to get picked up by the teacher. And I'm like, dude, what the hell is your problem? I go, what the fuck is your problem? Does your old man beat you or something? Is he a drunk? And the dude started crying. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's the 80s, dude. You fucker. It was only like, it was like a scene for the Breakfast Club.
I'm like, dude, after that, he would not leave me alone. He's like my best friend. He's like, yeah, you're going to pick me up. We're going to go out and smoke some of this and that. I'm like, no, dude, leave me alone, man. He's freaking me out. I couldn't get rid of him. I'm like, I couldn't get rid of the guy. I'm like, I hate you. Get away from me.
You two were like one. He was like, you know me.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Crazy.
Two sides of the same coin.
Right.
All right.
You get me.
So I had done ninth grade twice, so I was done with ninth grade, and I had actually gotten good grades in ninth grade. Thank God. I had something
The
like
second time you would have to.
I had like a 3. I had something like a 3.5.
What did I say on this thing last year?
And I was doing part of it was because I was an OWA, so you automatically got like 4 free credits or something just because you were in that freaking class.
You were an NWA.
OWA.
Yeah.
It was occupational course. You got credit for going to work. I mean, it was ridiculous. So I got like a 3.5 or something. Okay, sophomore
it's like you
year.
ever walks into his job and it's like a video game. You like walk through the doors and like you see like a bunch of experience points like pop up over his head.
Dude, I bagged
you got
groceries, man. I bagged groceries, and I got everybody I know a job.
Just a tap off to the side to see what you're going to improve. Like bagging, no.
plus
Bagging's
10.
pretty simple.
So
I'm going to get I'll put plus 10 in carts. I'll get carts. So with
Cart retrieval.
Faster. Yeah, cart retrieval.
Yeah. And I think I started working at like Manchu Walk or something like around that time. So like this is my sophomore year, and I'll tell you what happened.
Popularity plus 5.
I went from like a 3.5 to a 6.666, and I also pulled like a complete flat line of a 0.00, and because I had decided that. Well, that's
the Bridget Boggs.
Right, I went through the whole Bridget Boggs thing.
Yeah, you had problems at that point.
Right during was it midterms or whatever they call it?
Yeah, women will do that.
And I just decided not to take any of them. So I was just not.
Instead of it being your grade point average, it's your bank account.
I failed like computer programming because I didn't take my final. I failed like typing, and I was better than everybody in the class because I didn't take my final. I just decided not to do it because listen, I discovered women in my sophomore year, and it changed me completely. Like I
masturbated all the time.
No, I just like completely.
Before I discovered women.
Yeah, that was years earlier, but it just completely like just absorbed every moment of my life at that point. Like I just didn't, I just whatever.
God, he was in a poetry nightmare.
I was just like constantly like
I know I used to fucking have to go through all that shit.
I dated Natalie Rosen, and I was like dated her for like a year and a half. But I have to say that even though her parents were like super religious and everything, they like kind of helped straighten me out a little bit because there was some structure there. Because
in the wall,
because if you go home to my house, there was nothing, and there was no studying going on. So at least there was somebody I could study with and get
Kevin
like homework
comes home.
done.
He's like, Brian, why don't you come on over? You can have dinner with us too. No, I'm good. I'll stay right here.
It's really not going to happen, but thank you.
So
go home, read the Satanic Bible.
Sophomore year was bad, and at that point started the endless trek of summer schools as well. I had to basically start going to summer school because I had to make up credits, and because there was no way I was going to spend another year in that effing high school, but I had to graduate. See, this is the thing. Some kids in school, they were just like, I don't know what they were thinking, but they could just be like, well, I'm not going to graduate. I'm not going to whatever. Like Burnett did that. Listen, from like ninth grade, my dad was just like in a situation where he was always like, at 18, that's it. Like, I don't know what that meant, but I just knew that, that guy, like, I had to get a job as soon as I got back from California to give him money to help pay rent. Okay? So, like, there's no way, like, by the time I, like, graduated high school that he was going to be around. And truly, what did happen was that he was like, all right, I'm leaving. I'm taking the TV. And you're on your own.
Yeah.
And, there was complete... So mentally, I knew I had to graduate high school. So, I had to start going to summer school and stuff. There was no fucking around. So, Larry, we got you back. What happened with your 10th grade?
The highlight of my 10th grade was... that was my second and final year at the Catholic high school. And... one thing with the Catholic schools is they didn't play around with cutting classes. That was strictly verboten, and it was basic. The basic system was
electrocution.
Verbatim
would have been preferable. You got like so many detentions if you cut a class, and like the one day I got busted for cutting school that day. And that wasn't a separate offense onto itself. So I think it was like you got like something ridiculous, like 5 detentions for cutting a class. But since I cut school for the day, that means I cut like 6 or 7 or 8 classes. So it was like 30 or 40 detentions.
Sure.
And at that point, I was like, well, I'm going to be here every day for a while. So then I just stopped caring and kept getting more of them until it got to the point where the vice principal, actually, you had to fuck up pretty hardcore to get suspended. The vice president or the vice principal in charge of discipline, they basically gave me a job in his office because I was there every day for the next few months anyhow. So after school, I would work in there, like filing my own bad paperwork and shit. So that was my first job, sort of. That was also the point at which I was a sophomore, and the sophomores were basically the oldest people on the school bus because after that, everybody knew how to drive. So when you went to school in high school, they didn't use like actual school busing. You were basically on the RTA. And if you've never ridden the Cleveland RTA at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and if you know Cleveland at all, St. Ignatius is down around West 25th in Lorain.
It's a bad neighborhood.
Some interesting people. So I spent my sophomore year riding to school in the morning with
the low rider.
Yeah, sophomore year, you at least had you could you had priority over the freshmen, so you could like kick them out and kind of cluster yourselves in the back. And the freshmen had to intermingle with like the crazy guys talking to themselves and getting into arguments with like empty seats and shit.
Hey,
you get off the bus in the morning, and like there would almost always be like a hobo sleeping inside the bus stop. Good times.
In defense of the area, everybody's saying, "Oh, the area is horrible and stuff." Oh, it's so terrible over there and stuff. There's a hospital right there. I mean,
for the
you could get your knife wounds tended quickly. So
after the 3-hour wait,
so it's not so bad. I mean, people, I don't want people to think, "Oh, I'm going to get stabbed. I don't want to have to ride in an ambulance for half an hour."
Yeah. When you went down there and got shanked, you could get care pretty quickly
for that. They have a window for that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, Brian. Did I get everybody at 10th grade? Yeah. Brian, 11th grade?
11th grade, things changed for me. I got my first girlfriend, my first real girlfriend. And there was love, because there was booty. I'm like, I've got a girlfriend, yeah. And life didn't seem so bad, you know. Life was like kind of nice. I lived with my stepmother and her family, and they were evil. But I had a girlfriend, and there was love, and I had somebody who actually liked me for me, and like would tell me they loved me, and it was a great feeling. And then a few months later, that ended.
You remember like when you had a girlfriend back in those days, though, and you didn't like nobody drove, so like parents had to like pick you up and drive you around and shit like that.
Yeah, the few times that actually happened, yes.
He didn't mean to do it. It's just
it was incredible. I went from nothing to this chick that wanted to make out all the fucking time. I was just like, oh wow, this is really really good. You know, but then of course I was always God and never allowed to go out, and I was always broke, so the relationship didn't go very far after that. It was like I had somebody who really liked me, you know, and then decided they liked somebody else, and then I had nobody. It was like a big, you know, getting taken out of a black hole and then put back in. Like, oh.
And that was the beginning of the end for the marriage at that point too, right?
Yeah. At that point, that's when Dad and I finally had it out. Where I finally had to start telling him what the fuck was going on in that house, because, you know, like I had to really just like tell him, like, look, you know, it's either you believe me or like, you know, I'm just not gonna fucking like tell you anything anymore, because it's obvious, you know, that weird shit's going on. You can't be blind to it. I mean, you can't.
Oh. So, all right, Anderson, 11th grade.
11th grade. That's when the band really started kicking in. My hair started getting longer. Started to become very very metal, very heavy, very metal. Ripping my jeans.
You started working at Chi-Chi's.
Started working at Chi-Chi's.
We started all come together.
Started to sleep in class more. Started to stop. Started stopping. Whatever. I stopped doing my homework, and I just basically did what I needed to survive in school, right? Which backfired on me. But yeah, I mean, I just all I would do was pretty much go to school, sleep, leave school, and go out. Pretty much. Okay. Band was playing, so we were always practicing. I was thinking about it. Somebody, I wrote a letter the other day, did the show the other day, and they were like, if everybody in the show, if everybody on VGM was in a band, who would play what? And I was like, well, oddly enough, Brian and I were in a band together once, and it was called Vomit. And you know, we used to do stupid shit like that. We'd go to Flashes and play.
There's a video of that out there somewhere.
Yeah, fucking 1 o'clock in the goddamn morning.
He's just smiling, going do. This beret on his head, very metal. But 11th grade, there was more parties. 11th grade, there was more parties and lots of good times. I don't remember a lot of it.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing for me to recall, because after like after 10th grade, shit becomes sort of vague.
All the parties start mixing together. You know, you're either going to Bruler's house, but you got to meet up at the mall.
I didn't get just finished with.
Now hold on.
Go ahead.
One thing that happens around here, and this may not be the same with all schools, especially the ones that Larry apparently goes to, but around 11th and 12th grade, you start trade school options.
Yes.
Like C's went to Polaris. And what happens is, if you don't have this, I just want to explain it, is that most of the kids that go to the trade school pretty much don't even go to the high school except for a couple of classes. Then they go get on a bus and they go to the trade school where they learn a trade. And they can learn how to be an auto mechanic, if you're, you know, like a hair cutter, a dental assistant, there's computers, I think there's cooking, there's police, a few other things.
Electronics.
A hair cutter.
Dental hygienist.
Right, like electronics, like C's, etc. So what happens is that
will be a hair cutter.
When you don't do that, the people that are left in your grade that are in school, first of all, are not the assholes, because the
assholes go to these schools.
Well, the assholes go to the trade schools because that's where all the hardcore shit goes on.
As an asshole.
No, but it's true. So all of it is true. So all of a sudden, like the school mellows out considerably. Anderson's losing it over here.
Not the asshole. The only one to go to a trade school.
He's laughing.
I wear that with
I was thinking about going to a trade school. Are you an asshole? No. Well, then you can't go.
I'm sorry.
But
I think he's laughing at the haircut thing.
You guys are crazy.
I call myself an asshole at work all the time. It's just funny.
You guys, you can't even do it. A haircut.
I want to be a hair cutter.
Yeah, Ma, I'm going to school. I'm going to be a hair cutter. He's like,
You're not an asshole.
Hey, Ma, I signed up for them haircut classes. No, son, you're not an asshole. Mommy loves you.
he's like, you could be a mechanic. You could be an electrician. You could
No.
you could be a hair cutter.
I want to be one of them cosmetologists and do the pretty painting on the fingernails.
Really going to be a mechanic. Jimmy.
You're not my son.
Jimmy's going to be a teacher. He's going to be a hair cutter. Where are you gonna work? I'm going to work at a shop. It's called the hair cutter.
And then imagine you have to come home and tell Pa you failed haircut in school.
Haircut in school.
Not as a beautician, not as a barber. I'm coming back as a hair cutter. Oh, I'm sorry. It just made me laugh.
Could you imagine at graduation you go through like fucking electronics training and shit, and the other guy next to you gets their diploma and they got it for hair cutting?
Yeah.
My hair
He gets like a big fuck up. He gets a big fuck up pair of scissors, man.
Yeah.
Here,
Big
Oh,
soul.
I'll be a hair cutter.
So
I was laughing so hard I muted it, but I had to share my laughter with everybody, so I unmuted it.
So when you're in high school, if you don't go, the people that are left are college bound.
Yeah.
And so they're all busy with their studying and being quiet. And then there's
Those guys.
there's a small batch of people. There's a small batch of people that are left who aren't going to either.
Yeah.
And that was like Anderson
They're
and
not going to
myself.
further their education or get a legitimate job.
There are people that the school is basically struggling to keep in school because we're looking around and we're going, we don't really need to be here. And they
Yeah, that was me.
and the school knows that, and they're just kind of like, well, you should stay. Just why don't you go into these classes? And those are the classes we were in.
Those are
So
dumb.
Larry, 11th grade.
So 11th grade, I left my dad remarried, and the family moved out of Cleveland into Berea. So I left
What,
Catholic
Berea?
school.
Holy
I did go to
shit.
Berea, and I left the Catholic
I'm off
school
the haircut school.
and got to go to
Hair cutters now.
public high school, where they did have those VOTech classes. B,
Tech.
I was no longer in an all-boys school, so I actually got to
You're
go
all
to school with
educated.
girls. And C, I also had my
Give you
first
some haircut,
girlfriend. And, got to do the whole 11th grade true love, because in 11th grade you know what life and love are all about. So
Oh, fuck. I'm dying.
I bet they were trying to get you.
Don was talking before about the
Hair cutter?
prior to the hair cutter,
The asshole qualification.
the joy of the school bus.
Oh.
And with me, it was mine was
bus.
crazy. Ours to take the bus to school
What
because
class were you on a school bus?
Yeah, I didn't get no school bus. We had to ride the
11th grade school bus.
yes,
Wow. Was
we
it-
had 11th grade
was it-
school. I wasn't driving
was
yet.
it
11th
short?
grade.
Less in 11th grade?
Was it a short bus?
It was.
11th grade, and you're fucking riding a yellow bus to school,
I
man.
wasn't driving. And
I
if
know you
let
weren't
me
driving,
tell
you were in
the
it.
Fucking story. I wasn't riding the bus.
Was it a small bus?
because in Berea schools, you had to live like a mile and a half from the school, I think, to be able to ride the bus. And I wasn't far enough away. I was less than a mile and a half away, or whatever the cutoff was. But the people 3 houses down from me could take the bus.
You just walk over there.
And it was a yellow bus.
Now, the nice thing with where I lived in Berea, if you ever go to Berea, Ohio, 80% of the city is train tracks, and the train tracks ran like right through my backyard. Basically, there was like my backyard, then a little ditch, then the tracks. So to go to school, because Berea was also laid out by a retard, so no street goes straight for more than 7 feet before it turns.
Train track.
Yeah, so going anywhere is a giant pain in the ass because you have to go out to some other street, then across, then back up, and there are no straight.
Asshole haircutters live.
Yeah, there are no straight lines in Berea, so I would just go, hop the ditch, and take the train tracks, which was a straight shot, and cut the walk to school in half. And it didn't take long before I found out that apparently that's illegal. That's that's third-degree felony trespass, according to the first cop that stopped me. Fortunately, because at that point I wasn't driving yet, I never had an ID. So I got, first time they got you, they would always warn you, but if I catch you here again. Fortunately, I never got the same cop because they would always take your name and all that shit. So over the span of my junior year, they busted me there. They busted guys with pretty much the entire lineup of Iron Maiden because I knew all their names, and I would, my name is Bruce Dickinson, and he'd write it down and a description of me and shit. I'd be like, Steve Harris, okay, and he'd write it down.
My name is Beavis. No.
Yeah, I tried not to get real obvious, Lars.
My name is Paul Mall.
Alcoholic.
I'm Joe Camel.
Seymour Butts.
I'm Joe. Joe King.
But you look at his badge and it's Officer Jones.
That was junior year.
I'm Officer Jones.
Are you Joe King? Yes, I am.
All right, Cease, 11th grade.
11th grade. Yeah, that's when I went to my Votech school.
For
What the hell you want me to call it? Haircut in college?
Vocational.
Whatever, it's Votech.
Votech school. I went to my Votech
school.
All us non-assholes who took the college preparatory coursework.
We didn't get to go to no Robotech school.
Robotech.
How was the asshole test? Did they just sort of ask you a question, and if you were
Stick a finger in your butt.
yeah, if they were a dick to you, then you were like, "Fuck you," and then they were like, "Great, you're coming in."
If you give them the middle finger, they're like, "All right, he's going." Yeah. I went to electronics school. I went there for electronics, obviously, and yeah, a great bunch of guys there. That's the best class I ever had, and we were voted the worst class that place has ever had. So it was many hours of doing some illegal stuff.
Awesome.
in the back room they had there was a bunch of old TVs and stuff. We'd be breaking them and shit, and it was nothing but one joke after another in there. I mean, we had people climbing through the ceiling tiles. They give you these tool chests. It was like a joke, a small toolbox, and everybody had to leave the classroom at certain times to go to other classrooms for visiting and this and other shit. And when these guys were gone, they'd come back and their toolbox would be completely destroyed. It'd be flat as a pancake. The tools all over the place. It was just. It was nothing but chaos. I mean, complete chaos.
See, because there's a bunch of assholes.
Now, we're assholes.
Didn't you used to take the one guy would grab one.
I graduated from that asshole school. Watch me what I do to his lunchbox.
One guy would grab one end of the voltage, and you would grab the other end of the voltage, and then you would try to
That was We'd put a plug in the wall, and obviously I won this one because I'm fucking nuts. But you'd grab one piece of we'd fray the wires. There's two wires coming out of the wall socket. One guy would grab one, another guy would grab the other, and we'd have to handshake and see who would give up first. And it's just, for some reason I just won it. I don't know why. I don't have any feeling by then.
Dude,
but,
you used to take my stun gun and stun yourself with it, man. You were fine.
And then there was a bunch of crazy shit. The teacher would teach us this stupid shit. If you put this capacitor and you put all this voltage into it, and you can leave it if you set it somewhere, it'll still keep the voltage in there. Well, us guys, we're figuring how to make traps out of this shit. So we put this crap in their box, and they grab the lid. And they grab the lid, and you hear this tick, 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 the guy jumping up.
And then you get electrocuted and die. It was hilarious.
This shit was great.
You know, sometimes shit would glow, but then we have to put it out with a fire extinguisher.
He grab one wire, I'd grab the other wire, we'd touch our penises together and see who.
We'd shock the assholes. We'd just tie them to a chair. You were going to haircut in school, weren't you?
You better. I hope to God you never sit down in my haircutting chair, because I swear.
All right.
You will walk out of here.
I wouldn't let you fry
I'll
you.
bowl cut the shit out of you.
Yeah.
So
a good excuse. Just
I'm like some sort of Greek god. Here's my electrical bolt coming at you.
Look out, sucker.
Anderson, did I get you for 11th?
I think so.
All right. So 11th grade for me was mostly just the fact that that's when I started. That's when I was dating Heather, pretty much. And then I went into senior year too. So that pretty much consumed all my time.
That's where I lost track of you.
Really? That was 11th grade?
The thing about me in high school was that I was kind of like between two groups. I hung out with the heavy metal rock and roll musician types like Anderson. And these guys,
and roll?
Well, these guys were all like fucking long hair, jean jackets and stuff. And I mean by rock and roll, I mean they were in bands. And because there's
rock and roll guitars.
If you didn't know, if you were on
electrical, Johnny could have helped work on them.
If you were on the outside and you looked at burnouts,
That's too much of an asshole.
If you look
assholes in the rock and roll music.
The roads.
With that long hair, we weren't.
With electric guitar.
What?
All right. You can't tell from the outside between burnouts and guys in bands because they look the same. Long hair, jean jacket, same kind of freaking hygiene. It's just all the same. It's all the same thing, but there is a difference once you know. And I hung out with the guys in the bands on one side, but then I was like dating and like hanging out with like the Brian Burke crowd, which was all the guys in like Cavaricci pants and stuff. So I was like
listening to Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, I was a fucking mess. I was like, I would wear like Cavaricci pants with a jean jacket. I was never fucking right. And it took a long time to just to fucking give up on trying to, I don't know, be metal. Because, you know, it just didn't work. I'd have, like, long hair, and then, I'd have a dress shirt on. It didn't work out. So,
You had a mullet.
Yeah, it just messed up. Anderson had a giant mohawk. It's in my yearbook. So one of these days I should scan that picture and put it up.
You know what? I tried growing my hair long, but it just never worked. It was just big.
Oh, yeah, my junior year.
Big fuzzball.
I didn't have to get haircuts since I wasn't in Catholic school, so that's when I was able to sport a mullet, too. That was the other highlight.
I never had a mullet.
Yes, you did.
I didn't.
You did. You did in 9th grade, dude. You did.
I had bangs.
The fuck? You're going to rename it now. It was short. It was short in the front and all in long in the back. That's a mullet.
You had a mullet.
It's not mullet when your ears are covered with hair. When the rest, it was like I had a helmet.
The definition of a mullet is
you're defining this pretty narrowly.
Yeah, the definition of a mullet is short in front, long in the back. If you cut your bangs, technically that was a mullet.
You're so wrong. You don't even.
No,
unless your cousin.
Listen, if you were in haircutting school, you would know what you're talking about.
Y'all don't know what you're talking about. You ain't no haircutter. Listen to me. What are you going to tell me? What are you going to tell me? You're going to tell me a barber told you that?
Ear coverage has nothing to do with it.
I'm a hair cutter. I know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. It's a bang haircut. Well, if I didn't cut the bangs, the hair would be hanging in my face like Cousin It. But you know what I did? I got civilized, and I took a pair of scissors, and I cut the bangs in front of my face. I didn't cut the ears. I didn't cut the hair anywhere else. I just cut the bangs in front. That's not a mullet. The mullet didn't have hair on the side.
Here's the definition in the dictionary. A hairstyle in which the front is cut trim, but the back is long. Left wild and often uncut.
Hair cutter's side?
That is a mullet.
That's not.
Congratulations, Anderson. You had a mullet in 9th grade. Just deal with it.
I never had a mullet.
You did.
God
you did. Everybody did. It was the fucking fashion. Just you didn't have futuristic vision to know. You just had one. It's okay.
Not as bad as yours.
Yeah, all right.
Sorry.
You know, will it make you feel better? Will you be willing to admit that you had a mullet if I come out of the closet and say I sported the rat tail for a couple of weeks?
No, I will not. I will not believe.
I had a rat tail in high school. Fuck you, it was good.
You're homo.
Scan the picture out of the yearbook.
It was the 80s, dude. It was okay.
No, it wasn't. It was not. It's gay.
It's not a mullet.
You guys are assholes.
I know I was an asshole. I went to asshole school.
Get it out of the yearbook.
Asshole school.
My ears are
Him and his
covered
electric
with hair.
guitars and his fucking gay mullet.
All right. So, well, what I had was like crazy. It's like spiked on top, and then it was buzzed on the side. Thanks to my brother, we had like matching haircuts. And yeah, and long in the back. It was fucked up. That was like for like half a year or something, and then you couldn't afford to keep getting it fucking done. You know, it was ridiculous. So, anyway, so let's see. That was
We were homos.
let's do senior year and wrap this up. Brian, senior year.
Senior year was awesome because our step-family was gone. It was like, release the Kraken. That's when, now you have to understand that summer was the first time I had ever gotten high, and that's when things really sort of like opened the door for me, where I was like, oh my god, I've been this fucking geeky my whole life, you're kidding me.
And then you went out and got tattoos.
A lot more fun, went out to parties,
heroin.
people that, whatchamacallit,
assholes.
you know, people should, you know, I mean, they were like, wow, you know, you're actually going outside. I'm like, dude, it's a long story. You know, it was just kind of weird because it's like, and nobody knew that I would go out and do it. I'm like, dude, it's not that I didn't want to. I couldn't.
Okay, whatever.
I
Anderson?
had a good time. I mean, it was a lot better than, you know, my fucking the rest of my school year. So
Senior year?
Senior year wasn't, I don't know. I really, honestly, I was working. Halfway through there, I got emancipated. I turned 18, and I got emancipated. So it was on, like Donkey Kong.
He stopped going.
I pretty much, I would just call in and say I'm not going, and then I would go over to my dude's house who I worked with and just creep at his place and go sleep on the couch. I worked a lot. I had the band.
Show up with him.
Drinking every night, going up to Spruce and drinking in the woods.
I had this friend, Brian Burke, as well, and Don Anderson and Brian Burke sat on the other side of the room for me, and yeah, every period, they both would walk into the class and fall asleep. This was OWE, senior year. They would just, I mean, that was their plan. They both knew, I guess, that they could just sleep in that class, and they would immediately come in and just crash through the whole fucking class.
You prepared for that class.
Every day, both of them were out. It was messed up.
And that's the thing about that class, was that I was there for the 2 periods. So I would sleep through the first period. The bell would ring. Everybody would get up and go do something. I would just sleep. The bell would ring for everybody to come back. I'd still sleep through the same freaking place, just sitting there sleeping. That class would go through. Then the bell would ring, and I'd wake up, and I'd be looking around like, was that the second class? The first? I wouldn't know what
class. You walk to the wrong classroom after the bell rings. You're like, dude,
I've had it happen. I had it happen in my senior year where I lifted my head up and the other class was already in their classroom. I was like, oh, shit.
You ever drool all over the desk while you're sleeping?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Wake up with a fucking notebook fucking stuck to your face. You're like...
Or you're making noises. You're like, ah!
I completely perfected the way of having
nightmare.
it open.
I would wake up with a big boner, though, and the bell would ring. I'm like, motherfucker, are you serious?
Yeah, morning boner, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, I can't get it because you're dumb. You wore sweatpants in school. You're like, oh, Jesus. You're trying to fix it, you know. You're like fucking Captain Rottenclatch fucking sitting there like pulling on you. Like,
you're just waiting for everybody to leave the room first. You're like, oh, no, I'm just getting my books together that I haven't been using. And then I'm going to follow everybody out. You know, I know what you're talking about. Larry?
Yes. Senior year, I was still with my girlfriend for my junior year, but she went off to college. So most of my weekends were spent figuring out ways to drive out to Indiana to visit her in college, or driving out to Akron because I was one of those heavy metal stoner burnout guys. And Akron used to have a really great venue for checking out bands. The Akron Agora, later to become the fucking Boot Scootin' Saloon.
Who's a boot scooter?
Me and my buddies.
Hair cutters.
The hair cutters. Get the hair cutters out there scooting their boot.
Me and my buddies would go out there.
It's a bang cut.
I blew off most of my classes because at that point
we're more intelligent than they are.
I had situated myself to the point where I only needed a handful of credits to graduate anyhow. Like I needed something like half a credit in math, so I took consumer math, which was like for all the retards.
I was in that class.
I always got in trouble in that class because the teacher would be like, "You have to show your work," and like I couldn't figure out how to show my work because it was like retarded math. Like I'd be like,
should I carry the one, sir?
Yeah, what work do you want to see?
Retard math.
I do this in my head. There's no work involved in figuring out 10% of 100.
Asshole math.
It says, teacher says, show your work, and Larry drops his drawers. Oh, that's all I got, Teach. I don't know what you're talking about. That's all I got. All right? That's what I'm working. What?
Is that what you're looking for?
What are you trying to tell me?
So, my senior year was fairly unexciting. Sorry.
Cease?
I had to actually buckle down so I could graduate on time because my years in North Olmsted kind of wasted that point schedule away. So when I got into senior year, the little bit of time I had at normal classes, I had to fill it all up. I had absolutely no extra time to do anything, but once again, I had to go to my second year of electronics, and I actually ended up getting a job, my first real job from there. And I don't know. There were some good parties and everything, and it's kind of cool being the ruler of the school at that time, because
Ruler of the school.
Oh yeah, no one bothered you. No one bothered.
Ruler
It
of
was
assholes.
Just, they actually gave you. They actually gave you your own area in the place to, in the cafeteria to eat, your own time. It was awesome. I mean, I don't know what it was. Over in North Homestead, no one messed with you when you're a senior, but in Strongsville, they gave you like shit. You're like, oh yeah, here, have your own locker. That's like twice the size of everybody else's, and it was just weird.
Cease, it sounds like you went to high school in a John Hughes film.
I just, when I was in 11th grade, I had taken the way they broke up certain courses, and I was in a full day in 11th grade, is that they had advanced things like advanced English, advanced math, advanced science and stuff, and then they had general, which was like general English, general math, whatever. Actually, math was all murderous stuff that was all higher. And then they had basic stuff, which was for the more demented people, and basic English, and like Larry was talking about consumer math and stuff. And I remember asking people, I was like, because junior general English in junior year was kind of difficult. We had to do a term paper. I did it on alcohol, and it was like a big paper you had to do, and you had to we did Shakespeare and stuff, and so I was looking at my senior year, and I knew I wasn't going to college. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to college, and there was no way. I remember the teacher telling me, she's like, I don't want to see you taking basic English. You should be in general English and stuff. And I was asking seniors, I was like, well, what are you taking in general English? And they were like, Beowulf. And I was like, Beowulf? I'm like, what is? I didn't even know. I thought it was Shakespeare. I was like, okay. And then I asked somebody else to go, what's basic English like? And they're like, we do creative writing. I'm like, fuck, I'm taking that. So I took all basic courses my senior year because seriously, I knew in my brain, I knew that when I was going to get a blue collar job, like I was expecting to get, that people would just ask, did you graduate high school? I'd be like, yeah. They weren't going to be like, what kind of English did you take? Basic or general?
Yeah.
They didn't know. They didn't care. They're not going to be like, did you read Beowulf?
I did enjoy studying Beowulf my junior year, just for the record.
Yeah,
What's your interpretation of the main character?
Dude, my fucking junior year in high school, man, our goddamn English books had pop-ups in it. I was in all the retard classes.
Dude, it was
big fucking picture, the letter B with a fucking bumblebee next. It was like, ugh.
It was too vicious, and then it was my senior year was so cake. I mean, I had to take an extra class, which I only had five periods instead of 4 because I was still making up credits. And but I took all my classes were English was so difficult for me, which is now I actually write very well, but it was so difficult because I did not care when I was in school.
Perfect posture.
I just did not care. I didn't care about history. Now I can watch the History Channel to death. I can watch History Channel about anything now. But when I was in school and they were like, "Oh, we're going to talk about colonialism and shit," oh my god, no. I'd rather just go hang myself. I just did not care. I didn't care about general earth science. Now I can watch the Discovery Channel and be like, wow, that's pretty cool. back then they'd be talking about like shale coal and shit. You just be like, oh my god, I gotta get out of here. You know, it was so horrible. Fucking hated it. And,
Sedimentary rock. Oh, kill me now.
I just would not study or nothing. You know, if it was just like, do I know this answer or not? Did I pick up this piece of information through like, half-ass conversation, or could I cram it in during a study hall or cheat somehow? Because there was no way I was ever doing homework. Never. I was never taking homework home. I don't care. I'll fail. I just didn't give a shit. So senior year, I got the fuck out of that place, and I was people like, I'm so sad, I'm leaving. Get out of here, fuck you. I can't. I was like, oh my god, I'm out. I'm fucking out. I mean, I've been in this school forever. I just wanted out. Nobody telling me what I have to do or go or learn or anything. It's like I already got a job. I just want to get the fuck out. And I was so glad to get out of there, dude. I still am.
And I'm still standing there going, guys, wait for me. You know where to find me next year. I'll be right here.
Okay, so quickly. Brian, you went to truck driving school. You want to tell us anything about that?
Truck driving school was in Medina, so what I'd have to do is, because I worked nights, so I could go to school during the day, right? So I would drive all the way out to Medina. That's how I had the Delta 88. And that would actually was pretty cool. You go there, and first it's all textbook, because what they do is they would just get you, your handbook would get you through all the tests, because truck driving, man, there's a lot of shit you got to fucking know. So you go through all that, and then and you get to actually do the driving part, right? And at first they're like, you're just going to pull the truck up forward, and then you're going to back it up, and you're not doing nothing else. You don't turn the wheel, okay? But you'd be amazed how fucking pulling forward, not a problem. Backing it up straight, if you know what the hell you're doing, way fucking harder than you can think, man. They had constant people going in there, like, straightening the shit out and stuff for you. But it was like, whatever your class was doing, it was just, like, your class. You didn't have to worry about, whatchamacallit, you don't have to worry about, like, like an older class being there, like, frowning face at you and shit, So, it was pretty cool.
Did you,
what?
Was truck driving school just, like, normal? Like, did you just go in and have, like, a class, or was it an all-day thing? Or did you do, like,
it was an all-day thing, dude. Like, when you got, like, more advanced after a while, like, you do the turning, and then you had to learn how to do serpentine, which is basically, like, 3 barrels, and you had to get and that's still, like, part of the test,
Did you just show up and get into a truck? Did you just show up and get into a truck, or was there a classroom?
No, there's classroom. It's totally, that's what I just said. It was like, you first get in there, it's all classroom, right? And then when your classroom's done, then you move on to, like, other shit, But inevitably what happens is they get you behind the wheel, and what they do is like, let's say it's your turn to drive. So you go drive, and then you've got, like, 2 other guys that sit up in the bunk area. You're hoping that's all they're doing. And then, whatchamacallit, when you got to sit there, and in the passenger seat, and this cat's got, like, a brake that he can, like, reach over and grab. It's like a trailer brake, so activate that, so stop the truck if he needs to, is the teacher. And you have to remember that these teachers, man, they're old. Okay? They're really fucking old. So we have, like, 2 teachers that were, like, younger, like, in their, like, 40s or 50s. That's what I mean by younger. Most of them are, like, in their 70s. Right? So, like, you'd go in there and, like, we had, like, one guy who you couldn't have any air going in the truck. And I took it in summer, man. So you're driving around a fucking hot-ass cab over, and it's, like, 100 degrees. The guy would, like, constantly fall asleep. You'd, like, open the window. He's like, close the window. Like, oh, my God. Some of the teachers there were, like, complete dicks. They're like yelling at you and shit, You're, like, at first you're, like, kind of like, wow, man, I'm really fucking up. And then later I'm like, going, what? This isn't high school. I'm paying for this shit. You're like, what the fuck are you yelling at? You're talking to me like I'm a human goddamn being. What the fuck is wrong? This isn't a goddamn boot camp.
They went to asshole
school. You got to go learn to take this on the road. I'm like, I don't have to take shit, because you're stupid. Just like you're a fucking kid. But yeah, then you go and you actually take the driving test. And when you're done with all this shit that they teach you, you realize why they constantly fucking make you read stuff, do it over and over and over again. Because, dude, if you can't pass that test after everything they teach you, then you're a fucking moron. You shouldn't even be driving a truck. And then, like, you think you know what the fuck you're doing, and you get on the road and you realize you don't know a fucking thing. You're like, oh my God, this shit just started? The first thing I should have known there was going to be problems because, like, they took, the one guy, he was always cool. He's like an old guy, but he was cooler than shit. He always like, let's go get something to eat. it's lunchtime. So we'll fucking like pull up. Normally went to like some like country place, like out in the middle of fucking nowhere, because that's the only place that trust you to drive. But one time, like, we're going to go to a truck stop, park here, and we're going to go in here and get something to eat. So you guys can, if you've never been in one, you should probably go into a truck stop, because none of us have been in one. Like the guys I was with, none of us have been in a truck stop before. So we get out, we get in the truck stop, we're sitting down, and I'm looking at all these other guys that are real truck drivers, And the first thought I had was, I don't think any of these guys in here have slept in a month. Like one guy, his head, he was literally like, he had his food was pushed to the side and his head was on the table and he was snoring. All these guys look like they got beaten up and these big dark circles. And I should just ran, dude. I was like, thanks. I'll pay you guys, but I don't think I'm going to be a truck driver anymore. Because when then I started truck driving and I was there, you don't sleep, but.
Okay.
Then again, I don't know what the fuck I would do if I wasn't a truck driver, man, because, like, at my job, they just let a whole bunch of people go except for the drivers, because they're like, well, things are tight. We got to get rid of people that we can't use, but there's like 34 truck drivers, and they can't get rid of any of us.
Yeah. We need a lot of truck drivers to deliver the stuff that we no longer have anybody to sell.
Yeah, they have, like, middlemen jobs, and they're just like, well, we had to get rid of fucking man. Like, our general manager sent out a form letter, and he goes, we had to get rid of 8 warehouse personnel, 2 managers, and an office personnel. And then he wrote underneath that the drivers were unaffected by this change, which, of course, you're thinking, okay, well, the driver
There's
job...
now no longer anybody to offload your stuff.
Well, yeah, but how the thing read was like, the drivers didn't give a fuck if you guys got fired.
Well...
because the drivers are all... we're union, and... No. Yeah, because I know some of those dudes, man. I thought, like, goddamn, you don't want to get fired this time, These days, it sucks. But I'm just like, why make it seem like we don't give a shit? Like, you fucking asshole. So, but, anyway, yeah, dude, truck driving school is actually a lot of fun because it's like, you're going in there, you got to expect you're going in there, there's going to be like a lot of country bumpkins in there. But you're surprised, dude, because there's like a lot of like regular guys, like guys that are like really big into cars and shit, muscleheads or whatever, they're fucking all in there, car heads and, I mean, I think I was the only dude in there to listen to metal, but everybody else is like, I brought a fucking hacky sack, dude, because this other guy was like into soccer, and he's like, oh, dude, you got a hacky sack, bring that, that'll be cool. We get breaks and shit, we'll fucking do that. And I'm like, all right. And like by the second week, everybody was doing it. We had like a big gazebo, guys in cowboy hats,
truck drivers, hacky sack.
It was like it was fucking hacky sack, dude. It was fucking, it was fun.
The hacky that brought the world together.
Fuck, that's crazy. All right, cool.
You can see Devil Down in Georgia playing while they're hacky sacking over there.
Anderson, have you explored any secondary education since high school?
Well, I mean, I
opened his mind up to any other things.
Are
you open for anything, Donnie?
How to grow your own.
I went to high school for a 5th year. Does that count?
No, that's still high school.
Because I did.
Well,
I didn't really graduate on time.
You can tell everybody that story if you want, but it's not that interesting. But you can go ahead and tell.
Nothing interesting. I had to go back to school, and I chose all basic classes, general earth science.
Should have done that the first time, but all right.
Yeah,
I did. It's just I never paid attention. This time I had to pay attention. But it was a great time.
This time,
kids were like 15 years old, and I was 18.
Yeah, you went for an extra year, dude. Okay,
I did.
They'd be 17 and you'd be 18. They wouldn't.
No, because they were freshmen.
There wouldn't be.
I was in a class with freshmen.
Oh.
No.
So they were 15, and they're like,
he's sitting at the desk, and the whole thing's way too small for him.
I'm fully like long
he's
hair.
He's like 2 feet taller than everybody else in the class.
Leather jacket.
We're looking at
always.
I'm in a metal band.
Right. Everybody knew I was in a metal band.
I'm gonna be a hair cutter.
I'm gonna be a hair. Damn straight. Like this girl's pen stopped working, and she was like, "Oh, my pen stopped working." I'm like, "Give it to me," and I take it from her.
I'm a pen fixer.
I'm like, "I'm a haircut."
Start making a tattoo with the pen.
I pull my lighter out and I light the tip of it, and it starts working. She goes, I give her a pen back. She's like in shock, and I was like, "What? The pen works?" She goes, "No,
you got a lighter.
You have a lighter?" And I'm just like,
I'll give you a blowjob for that thing.
I'm like, damn.
With that voice.
But yeah, no, that's all I had. I didn't go shit.
Oh, that was the one at the truck driving school.
I couldn't get out of high school, let alone get into somewhere else.
All right.
I was too busy being a rock star.
Larry?
See where that got me.
Immediately after high school, I went to the Army, of course.
Discovered you have nothing
back.
to offer the world at all.
Wait a minute.
I went to Ohio State first.
The Army is better.
Actually, I went to Ohio State where, because I'm dopey, my freshman year I declared my major and a double minor. I was going to be a history teacher, and because I was such a classic underachiever throughout school, like my grades were shit.
Niggers used to be our slaves.
That was my college entry essay. Actually, that I was working on a
thesis. Talk like that. It's cool, man. It's all right. They know I'm fooling.
When I showed up, I had really mediocre grades in high school, but when I took I didn't take the SAT. I took the ACT, which is like the SAT for retards, because I was way too unmotivated to take the SAT. But because of the grades I got on that, OSU, I was eligible to take honors classes. So, being the genius that I am, I said, you know what? This economics class sounds tough. I'll take the honors one because there I'll get more interaction with the teachers, and if I have any issues, I'll be all set.
So you had no common sense, but you were smart.
Yeah. So I show up, and the teacher's explaining like opportunity costs and stuff. He's like, now, when you're figuring this out, here's the way you do it. Now, a lot of you have probably already figured this out, but if you want to apply calculus, and he starts writing out the formula, well, as we already covered, my senior year in high school was fucking consumer math, where the most difficult thing we ever did over the course of that thing
where he's looking at the chalkboard, his sweat starting to build his foot.
It was the toughest thing
I can do it.
Math my senior year was figure out fucking sales tax, and he's busting out calculus. And I was like, oh dear Christ!
I believe I'm
fucked up.
I think I messed up. Where's that haircutter class at?
Also, again,
class
because I had no common sense, I was like, okay, cool. This works out perfectly. I'll schedule this history class early in the morning because it's history. It's American history. I know most of this shit anyhow, and it'll be fine. It never occurred to me that I didn't need to sign up for a class at 8 o'clock in the morning. So,
you did anyways.
Yes, I did. That first semester, I was there maybe half the time. When I was there, I was always in whatever I fell asleep in the night before. So I'd like show up in like sweatpants, like a t-shirt, and like a baseball cap because I still had like a mullet. Well, I had regrown my hair at that point, but Lord knows I had never combed it for that class because I usually woke up, looked at the clock, fuck. And then I got it, If you've never seen Ohio State, it's a big-ass place that you don't want to have to, hustle across at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that was...
Everybody thought you were doing your walk of shame every morning? Is that what
that was
Army posters started getting more attractive every day.
That was my first bit of post-secondary education. From there, I tried like a couple local joints for... After I decided being a history teacher wasn't going to be for me, Ohio State had a really good program where if you were going into education, your freshman year, you weren't really student teaching, but they would stick you with a teacher, and you'd sort of shadow them, and occasionally, like I would do like some lesson plan type stuff, and I was going to be a high school teacher, and so I was shadowing this high school teacher. And I'm sitting there, I'd help like grade papers and stuff. And after a couple weeks of sitting there, like, figuring out which of the chicks in the high school class were hot, I was like, if I pursue this as a career, I'm going to be in so much trouble. This probably is not the way for me to go. I can see the writing on the wall. So after that, I had like 400 other majors along the way. I was going to be an architect for a couple minutes. I was going to go into marketing for a while, and
I could draw.
Yeah, I eventually just
Boy, you
landed.
did every job, so
I got it
now
all.
I wasn't smart enough or
Jack of trades.
asshole to get into the haircut in school, so I eventually fell into a computer job, and I was like, you know what? I'll major in computer science because that'll be all shit I already know, so I won't have to pay attention in those classes either.
Don't use math in that.
And here I am with my associate degree in computer science that taught me a bunch of stuff that in 10 years in the field I have never used. So
It'll all be outdated in a couple more years anyway.
I am the world's great, underachieving role model.
Cease.
All right. I went back to another electronics school. At this time, I was living with Kevin, and I had a full-time job, and I'd go back home, and we were both broke as all hell, and I'd be eating like a frozen burrito, and I'd run to class, and I was fucking beat. And I'd have to be there.
Sucking on a frozen burrito?
Yeah, chewing on that as it was defrosting on the way to work, school. And we had
He had that one microwave that would fucking just melt shit.
Yeah. Ding, it'd be
turn
like
it on.
fire.
I remember because the whole thing was... Oh, my God, dude. It was loud, man.
It's crazy. It caught on fire at Tiffany's. We were gonna throw it out.
Even your car lights went dim when that thing went on.
So the whole city went dim.
There's so much power being drawn from it. Ducks stopped flying. Radioactive.
Pigeons be hitting the window.
You needed to put tinfoil in that microwave.
You couldn't, dude. You'd rip a hole up into another dimension.
Just to shield yourself.
Oh, fuck, dude. God damn it.
Put it on the inside. You can't. It'll destroy everything. Do it. If you want your potato
Yeah, because it would be running along normal, and all of a sudden it would, like, years would just go, boom, on the inside here, boom, and then Kevin's like, I think a shield just dropped. It's like, holy fuck, dude. I'm not going to eat that.
Well, your face is melting in the...
Right.
Anyways, so yeah, I went to another electronics class, and basically what I wanted to do is get an associate's degree, and what I had to go through this class first so I could transfer these over to a college, which I'd never actually made it to. So when I went there, it was a bunch of assholes, basically. And I fit right in.
It's the same guy, just older.
Me and this one other guy, we already went through the same Polaris type shit, so we were like knew all this stuff already. So it was all super easy class. Him and I got straight A's, and we were the only 2 out of 20 left. Everybody else was just like, nah, I quit. They're all smoking dope in the parking lot, and this one guy was jumping his motorcycle over this embankment, and he kind of broke his leg. They
moved on to the advanced asshole courses.
we had
surfing lawns.
We had 4 different teachers throughout this 2-year class. I mean, 2 quit. One guy died from opening his oven when the gas was on, and it just sparked and blew up his house. And the last guy we got was a complete, all right, dude, here, take the test and get out of my face. It was I couldn't believe it.
Didn't that school move or something like that while you were going there? Didn't it have...
Yeah, I mean, I went to the school because it was nice and close. It wasn't downtown. It wasn't anywhere. It was in Strongsville. And then half the class was over, and they moved to way out in Parma. So I was I have to get home real fast and shower and shit and go real fast, try to get there on time. It was a real pain in the ass. But then, by the time we get out, it's 10:30 at night when he got out of there. And I got home, and Kevin be talking to me, and I fall asleep in the hallway.
He would, man. It was fucked up. Cease went into it to learn robotics, and wasn't the robotics course a week long or something like that?
Yeah, the whole time I was there, we were learning about VCRs and they had some computer shit, which I never got to use ever. And it's just and radios and shit like that. And it all sounds great, but once you get out of there, you don't know a goddamn thing of how to fix anything. Nothing. The robotics class was the last couple of weeks or something, and they had this huge robot that was sitting in there, and they're you know what, it just don't work. I'm like, well, why don't we work on? No, we don't work on that. I'm like, what the hell is a robotics class?
Don't touch it.
The one thing I learned from Cease about electronics is that, first of all, you need to have one eye that has a magnifying glass built into it, so you can see the little colors on the fucking circuits that tell you something, and you got to try to figure out if that's yellow or orange half the time. And then whatever you're trying to fix would be a lot better if you had the mythical schematic.
Yeah. No one has a schematic for anything out there. Forget it. Forget it.
So, yeah, somewhat useless education as far as ever being able to fix it.
I don't know how many times people ask me to fix a TV. Like, dude, you went through electronics class. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I don't have the $8,000 worth of test equipment to figure out what the hell's wrong with it. You know, it's like, forget it. I'm a complete ass. I don't know anything.
My dad's a television repairman. He's got an ultimate set of tools.
So after high school, I was going into culinary training, and basically the way it works is
I was going to be a food cooker.
Everybody, if you watch TV, you see that people go to school. They pay to go to school to learn how to cook. But the reality of it is that if you have an inn, which I did, the better thing to do is apprentice under a chef. If you apprentice under a chef, you get paid and you get to learn. So rather than paying to learn from a bunch of nobody chefs that no one's ever heard of before, you could find a good chef and a good program and apprentice under them and get a check. So that's what I did. And originally I was supposed to go to Florida and be part of Hiroshi Noguchi's in Florida, in Orlando, I believe. But moving was too much of an expense. So they worked out a deal where I would apprentice up in Cleveland underneath the Turkish chef at the hotel, and then when the French chef came in, I apprenticed under him, and I cooked there for about 2.5 years, and eventually the French chef didn't like our work ethic and was quitting, so I quit too, and I also hated it because I realized that there was no money in cooking unless you are European. At the time, today you can get away with it. Because today a lot of people are looking for fresh, and that whole like vegan thing is in there, and people are looking for more like like if you think of a Californian type of food, they're kind of looking for something like that. So that's not like European, which Europeans all heavy sauces and not fried, but just like, things wrapped in bacon and all kinds of stuff that's just not really right, not really health conscious. And it is and it isn't. It depends on where you're talking about in Europe. I mean, the Mediterranean is different than, Central Europe. But the thing is that in the Americas now you can do it. But back then, in the early 90s, it was still very much like when the French chef came to Cleveland, the press was just...
in the Americas?
In America. Anyway, the French chef would come to Cleveland, and everybody would be all like, oh, it's a French chef, woo! And he'd be in the press, and they would come and take his pictures. The television cameras were there and stuff, and there was just no way.
They look at all your food and say, this is shit.
Well, no, they liked it, but it was they liked it because he was French. They were just like, oh, he's French. He worked with Roger Verger, and Provence and all this crap. And it's like... if you were American, if they would have been like, well, we got this American chef, they would have been like, oh, American, fuck. No, the place is going to suck.
Yeah, you don't know shit.
It's garbage. And so...
I spit in his general direction.
So I realized there was no money in it, and it's a lot of work, but there is now. And luckily I've got one of my friends who I found on Facebook, Dan Rossi, and he's working at the Venetian in... Vegas today, and he's stuck with it, and he's doing really well. So I mean, that's good that the market is kind of turned around now, and a lot of these American chefs are really doing great things with food. But it really wasn't for me, and I had made decent money at the time, and I'm not going to go in the whole work thing again, but I eventually just took a pay cut just so I could leave and get out of it because I just hated it so much. So. I have started to do, I'm very close to getting my associate's degree in computer science just to have it. I've never really needed it, but if you're ever going to get another job someday in the future, I don't want to not have that education because a lot of places look for it. And it's kind of important only to land the job, because a lot of places just want to know that you have that stupid piece of paper that proves that you know something, and it doesn't really mean as much if you have it or not in the computer field. Because if I had a computer degree when I got out of like high school, and I would have like went like 4 years into college, if I would have had a computer degree, none of the language that they would have taught me would be relevant today. They're all expired. So it's just not that important in computer science, but whatever. They still want you to have that piece of paper, so that's why I study. So that's basically it. Longest show ever, almost 3 hours. Next show is going to be about diet, which means all kinds of food, what we eat, what we try not to eat, how we fail at it.
Constantly.
Yeah, drinking.
Not once or twice, all the fucking time.
What the problems are with dieting,
fail right now,
or how you're forced to go onto a diet like Anderson did when he went to Oklahoma. Things of that nature. All around nutrition is going to be the topic of conversation. That will be in 2 weeks, and so you want to stay tuned. If you guys got anything else, you want to?
Nope.
No.
I got nothing.
All right, we are going to, if you're listening live, we are going to be giving away a video game to a caller who calls into the sports show tonight. So if you're awake and you're going to listen to Sports Show, you can win a copy of NCAA Football 09 for the PlayStation 3. And that's going to be given away to a caller, which we'll explain on the Sports Show. It's 11:07 according to my clock. So we will start the Sports Show at 11:20. So it'll be a short Don and Don.
Well, Don and Don is going to be cut
just
to Don.
Just the Don. That's fine.
I'm going to be back in a second because I got to stretch my legs.
I'm going to do the outro.
Just
and then,
go to the sports show. I got to take off.
Well, I got to export the show. That's why we don't just go to the sports show. So
I'll be back to talk some crap in a minute.
All right, I'm doing the outro, and so long to the rest of you. You've been listening to Midwest Wasteland. Actually, we don't have an outro for Midwest Wasteland, so screw it. Yep, there we go.
There's our new outro.
Goodbye.
Later.